so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming,
whose broad stripes
Ooh,
and bright stars through the
perilous fight,
o'er the
ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there.
oh,
Say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free
and the home of the brave.
home of the brave, home of the brave.
Hoi ki mo e hamata pule, fia ke taitare rea ki mo tolu ki he paenga o e Vake Tali Folau, i he aho whakakoloa koe ni. Ko au awhapalu, whahako whaifatongia te bea me he BYU Provo substation ko ia ai paenga o e Vake Tali Folau, bea me Utah. Bea kore peke utuku ai whamalo maalunga taha o kulava ke tau whai, ke tau tamai he wani ko ia ko e nehanga o whakakoloa a ki koe, bea moho o whamiri, mo e kāinga, ai fu aha o whakakoloa ko e ni. Bea i kai koe tau wausia, ai a honi ko ia ko harerei na tau whai ka koe ofa ta e whiriwhiri manako ai tamai he wani. Bea i hene pe, o tuku mauai pe ai whakamalo, whakaapa-apa, maalunga taha o kulava ke tau mau ke teia. Fia whoke taitare rea ki mong tolu mo mea mai ki he paenga o he Vake Tali Folau. Bea i hene pehe, tuku heni ai whaapa-apa ki he bea fia mau pe ke lawe i he tangata whai whatongia ai laumari le rei mau ai pe, mo lako i fi le rei mau ai pe, ai ene awhiwhio. Ai tamatui, tau whahau tupo ono kau mawhoki ai tahini kuini nanas pau utuku aho, pia moe whare o haa moe au fo. Ta tari whewhi hene aki mo tolu e hou eki moe haa mata pule pe malo ai lau maari e kau mawhoki ai tonga kotoa pe, o ku mea mai e ngai tapa kehe o e kolope. Ko e paenga ni o e Vake Tali Folau, ai au whakatataha i ai tonga i e tapa kotoa pe o e kolope. Pia e ngahi polo kalama o vahe ati pia me he paenga o ku whakatawangi ke tokoni atuia ki a te koe i o whaifatongia i api i he ako kau mawhoki e mo uilerei me he substation koe ni. Ka mawhoki e ngahi konga kehe, mo tapa kehe o e mo ui ai au whahua te me ngahi substation kehe. Whamalo ka te nau tolu na nau whahoko a ngai polo kalama o e aho ni. Whahawa mau peho tau aho a ki ai lotu pe tāpuni a ki ai lotu ka mea na tau wanga maheni ki ai i tonga. Pea i hene pehe o ku tau wango i mau pe o ku tau neke neka ko i haa ko e ofa ta e whiwhini mahanako ai o tua. Pea lawa leo ki fua ho tau ngai whatongia i a ngai wheitu u kehe ai a ku tau whakapae ai. Kai ke ngata pe i tonga eiki ka mawhoki u taitari whewhia ki Montolu ko ia mo mea mai me Australia. Ka mawhoki a Nuusila taitari whewhia ki Montolu ki he paenga o e Vake Tali Folau. Taitari whewhia ki whakihena ki Montolu o ku mo tukutaimi ka mo mea mauai pe ki he paenga o e Vake Tali Folau. Pea me ngai whanua kehe o Iulope. tau te whitu a te ki mō tolu o ku mō mea mai pia me Itali, France, Austria, kama foki a Sweden, pia mo ngahi whanua kehe o Europe. Taitari whiawhia ki mō tolu ku mō mea mai me he ngahi state kehe o e I kare, ko e taimi whaingata a whakieni, ko e taimieni o e ngahi mao mea tokoni, pia o ku hounga ka teki mautolo, ma o fua whatongia I he paenga o e Vake Tali Folau, homo kau mai ki he polo kalama, pia I hene pehe, ko rea pe ke mou eiki pe mua ka e shea tu e tau polo kalama. Pia tautari whiawhia ki mautolo, mo mea mai me ngai whanua kehe o Asia, pa mei Malaysia, Singapore, kau mawhoki a Siaina, Hong Kong, Taiwan, he ko mawhola e tonga I Asia mo Europe, kau mawhoki a I kare, pia mo ngai tapa kehe o e mamani. Pia I hene pehe ho eiki mo e haamata pure, o taitari whiawhia ki mo tolu, o ko mo mea mai ke paenga I he aho whakakoloa ko e ni. Pia ko e uraki houa o e polokalama, ko loto ke o ku iai heni a he tokataha ma ngāu e waofi au pito hange peha tuofe fine, kia te au he ma ngāu e taimina mahoko ai ko e kau advisor na e whiri ki maua ke kau advisor ko ia ki he superintendent ko ia pe mo e Board of Education ko ia a Utah. Pea I hene pehe, ko e taha o ne ngai ngāu e lava mea kau mawhoki o kune lava o toko ni, au tau kāinga tonga aia o kunau kei struggle pe ke mauha nau ngāwe. Pea guai ai ngahi u whaunga kehe, e lava ke vahe e Emily, pea ko e tahania ngai whaunga o ku ngāwe aki whakamaman lahi. Ka whiawhia ko hiko ne tūtaimi, ke lawa ke kau mai ki he paenga, pea I hene pehe, o ku taitari whiawhia heni ke hoko atu ai whaiwhatongia o e whiawhini. I he hoa hono wā ai aku tau pehepe ko e leilat pen ke he whitu, I he whitu tau whoki mai ke ngai mea o ku nai vahe hui ke kua osi, pea ma ngai whehu I mehe hui ke kua osi he lo tonga o e polo kalama, pea I he whitu tau noa e te kau mai ai Darling Long, ko e tahawokia o e kau ai aku ne taki ai ki kulupu ko ia o ku nau ngau aki ai system ko ia ko e feel great system. Pea I hoa whaka o si de tau whakerewa ki he vahe ngai mea whikau aki mo I kansa. Oa na ke tō I he vahe ko ni, he ko he vahe mahu inga mea teki nau tolu o ku nau o si whai ai ngai whakatotolo ki he kansa. Kai koa whakamahalo ka koe ga usia mo oni I ngai whaunga kehe. Ko iai o ku taitari whiawhia aki mo tolu ki he paenga Vake Tali Folau, pea tukumua ki taitari whiawhia aki mo tolu e siari ongi pea ka heri ko ia pea tau hoka dewa.
They say, malo lele, in Fiji they say, pura vinata, in Samoa they say, talo falava, in New Zealand they say, kiora oe, in Hawaii they say, aloha oe, but in America, a happy day, fia maupe. In Tonga they say, malo lele, in Fiji they say, pura vinaka, in Samoa they say, talo falava, in New Zealand they say, kiora oe, in Hawaii they say, aloha oe, but in America, the happy day, fia maupe. Te vai le tahiti, whakalawe tāra oe, alomi lomi e, aue, Vake Tali Folau Tahiti nui ia te whare au e tau aerea Mama ia te uri au e pēra te orua Au e, au e, au e o ie Au e la o i au mama e Au e la o i au mama
Whamalo pita hoi ki mo e haamata pūre mo tukutaimi ka mo mea mai ki he paenga o e Vake Tali Folau I he aho whakakoloani pēa I he ne pehe. Tatari whewhia he ni Emily. Emily, welcome. And so good to see you. And the work that we have done over those years has been phenomenal. So we're live now, and I'd like to turn the time over to you so that you can, if you don't mind, introducing yourself and tell us a little bit about your family, and then we'll go from there.
I'd be happy to. First of all, Yorana, and thank you so much for inviting me. A little bit about me and my family. Well, my name is Emily. I am mixed, and the interesting word within Tahitian is afa. I'm mixed heritage. My mother's Tahitian, my father's American. I was raised in Utah up until I was 13, 14 years old, and then my family and I relocated to my mom's home island of Tahiti. I lived first in what's called the commune of Paea, and then we moved to Papara, where I lived out for the rest of my teenage years. And it's the place where I was able to really understand and make much more sense of the Tahitian culture that my brothers and I were raised in here in Utah. In terms of my background, I don't know, I've kind of been all over, but I've always been in learning and development and education. I've always been an advocate for learning our heritage languages, and I've always been, really interested in understanding a bit deeper where we come from, the stories that we kind of hold in our lineage and our heritage. So I hope that kind of answers your question.
Yeah, that's awesome. If you don't mind me, I'd like to dig in a little deeper. Okay. Your experiences having a father and a mother, Tahiti and here in the United States, how did you reconcile or able to have those living basically in two worlds, two different type of worlds? What was it that your mother or your father helped you that you were able to function in both worlds?
That's a really good question. And there are two different answers. There's how did we function before we moved to Tahiti, and then how did we function after? So I'll start with the beginning. Growing up, our household, the culture was predominantly Tahitian, and it was adapted, of course, to American context. As an example, I have 5 brothers. I have 2 older and 3 younger. And I essentially helped raise my 2 younger brothers. And so at the age of 11, 12, I would pack up my little brother in his stroller. I would pack his diaper bag, make sure he had a bottle, and all the little things he needed as a baby. And I would take him to go with me to play at my friend's home.
Wow.
And as I grew older, I never realized that was weird in kind of the traditional American context. People don't really do that here, but for me, it was completely normal. So as I was growing up, as my brothers and I were growing up, we didn't know anything differently. We didn't know that the way that we were raised in our home wasn't wrong. We just didn't realize that it was different because it's all that we knew. But when we moved to Tahiti, and kind of all made that much more sense, and we grew older, and my mom actually began to share more about her upbringing. She began to share more about herself, and I think that's the pivotal change. When we were younger, my mom what she said to us is she brought in the old ways, and it's not that she didn't talk to us children. She talked to us about kid stuff. She didn't really talk to us about growing up, or some of the things that might ail us as we go into adolescence or whatnot. But as we grew older into our teenage years, into our 20s, my mom kind of broke that cycle that you actually see a lot in Polynesian families, in actually talking to us about things, and talking to us about the differences in her upbringing, her culture, and how she was with us growing up, and how it was just her way of trying to adapt to a different world, but only knowing what she knew as a Tahitian woman. A big part of it, I think, also was just through our own individual experiences. Even though my brothers and I are very, very close now, when we were growing up, I mean, I was the only girl. All the brothers had their own friends. We didn't exactly talk to each other. And it wasn't because we didn't get along. It was just because, well, what are you gonna say, when you have your own kind of priorities? So I guess the long and short of the answer is, we just kind of learned through experience, and we learned through eventually just talking to each other and asking questions.
Oh, awesome. So what kind of challenge did you have moving from the United States to Tahiti? I'm interested. I'm sure that people will be interested to see what challenge you face. And then all of a sudden you come back here. I'm pretty sure that different challenges that you face.
Definitely. Oh, that's a wonderful question. So when my family and I moved down there, my brothers and I, we didn't speak the native language of Tahitian. We didn't speak French, which is the introduced language. My mother, of course, spoke both fluently, and my father did as well. My father served a mission in Tahiti in the 70s, and he picked up Tahitian, and he speaks near native. It's beautiful, beautiful Tahitian. So the biggest challenge was trying to acquire the languages. I was 13, 14 when I moved there. And so my brain was already fully developed in terms of language. And going down there, my brothers and I realized, we had two choices. We either learned or we didn't. And fortunately, there's got to be some genetic component or a miracle. But we were all able to pick up the languages quite easily. And within a year, maybe a year and a half, we spoke French fluently, which was the only language allowed in the schools, meaning it was the only language that was taught in schools. And then we also were semi-fluent in Tahitian. Wow. So I would say that was probably the biggest thing. And also the second biggest thing is culture is very different in island life. It's very different. Even living here in the States, many of us preserve our traditions, but it's still not the same as when you're in the island. The mentality is different. Life is slower. Priorities are different. And so I think recalibrating to fit what I love calling island life was probably the second most difficult thing, but it was also probably one of the most wonderful things that I was able to pick up on.
Awesome. So did you have any challenges with the food, or did you eat a lot of the island food here that it was not a factor when you moved back?
No problems with the food. We always had some semblance of Tahitian food here. Taro, what is that? Taro, po'e, pork, which I know is not part of the traditional diet typically. But a lot of eota, which is raw fish. So I had no problem with that. I was accustomed to it. And we would even eat the traditional style with our hands. So there was no problem there.
It's interesting. Yesterday, I was invited to a lunch at the Golden Corral. And we were waiting. Those guys, unless you show the waiter the receipt, they won't give you the utensils or the drinks. So she told me, well, I cannot give you anything since I don't see the receipt. I said, well, those guys have the receipt. And well, I'll wait until. And I said, well, you go ahead and wait. I'm going to start eating. She looked at me weird. With the hands and everything. So yeah, I'm not going to wait. I'm hungry.
That's right. Hey, these hands are perfect utensils.
Yeah. So, did you graduate in Tahiti before you moved back here, or did you come back here and graduate here?
So I now kind of regret it. I chose to come back and graduate from an American high school. And so I moved back by myself. My family stayed in Tahiti. I ended up living with my cousins, the Munanuis. They're a very well-known Tahitian family in Utah. I lived with the oldest daughter. And so I graduated my last year from East High School.
Oh, East High School is a good school.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah,
been to
not
East High
bad.
School a lot. So, and can you walk us through how you get to undergraduate and graduate school and things like that? That'd be great.
Sure. So with education, I was always a very good student. I always had, even in Tahiti, I managed to be one of the top students in my classes, despite being a language learner. Came back to Utah during my senior year, did extremely well as a senior. But when I went to college, I enrolled. I did terribly. I think I was so burnt out from school that I ended up just flunking out of school. And it's not. I'm not ashamed of this. I always share this story because I think it's important to hear. But I ended up just not finishing, and I didn't re-enroll until I was 33 years old. So for a good 15 years, I just worked. And when I was in my 30s, I knew, okay, I need to get back to school. And I enrolled at Salt Lake Community College. I'm a huge fan of Salt Lake Community College. Ended up getting my associate's degree in 1 year. And then I wanted to go to Westminster. And I applied, I got in, and I got my bachelor's degree in 2 years. So I made myself go through an accelerated program. My Bachelor of Arts was in English, and it was a degree that I always knew that I would want, mostly because I'm a lover of words. I love literature. I love to write, not creative writing, unfortunately. I write boring research papers, but writing nonetheless. After a couple of years, after I graduated from undergrad, I was still itching for something more. I really wanted to understand the deeper components of education and learning and development, specifically with adult learning. And so I re-enrolled and I earned a Master of Education with a certification in adult learning. And fast forward a few more years after that, apparently education is still on my mind, and I'll share a bit more about that. I re-enrolled for a Bachelor of Science degree in neuroscience because I wanted to understand the deeper implications of decision-making and learning in the brain, psychologically, cognitive, and also the neurobiological aspects of it. So I'm at the tail end of that, and I put it on pause for a little bit because of the pandemic, but my hope is to graduate with that second bachelor's degree either in December of this year or spring of next year. It's a lot. It's too many degrees.
Yeah, I remember when we first met, that first meeting we have, and sort of writing. I mean, you send emails, right? I can tell from the way you write emails are very clear and concise.
Good.
Okay, and I did not know that you came back on your own, and then good to have family support, and you are able to persevere, and then you go back. Interesting. When I graduated with my doctorate degree, there was a 65-year-old woman that graduated with us. Apparently, she went in before and then have to get out because of some health issues with the husband and some of her kids, and she finally came back and graduated with us, and she's a grandma already. And I remember we asked her that question, why do you come back? And say, well, when you are this old, according to what she's saying, sometimes there's things that left undone and you have to finish it. And she said, now that I'm done, I don't care if I die tomorrow. That's the funny part, you know. And he said, I have accomplished all of my goals for education. So it doesn't matter. Now I'll turn my focus to my grandkids. And she does contract work on the side. And we always catch up on each other, see how they're doing, how things are, need help and things like that. So for you to go back and after 15 years, that's I think sometimes it's hard when you work for money, you know, you got to work for promotions and things like that. But decided to go back. Maybe your experience was different from mine. I remember when I went on a mission, 2 years I came back. It seems like to me that it took me about 2 weeks to get into the mode of education.
Nice. Better than 15 years.
Yeah, so the mathematical equation that I used to memorize, and I thought, wow, man, this is interesting because it made me upset that I had to stay up almost all night to learn those things to make sure I get them back, you know. So I think it takes a lot of courage on your part in order to come back and get more education. And the thing that you do out there right now at LinkedIn, okay? Let me switch to Tongan a little bit and I'll come back, okay?
Sure.
Ho eik mo e hamata pūre. Ka bau oku ke I he LinkedIn ka oku te kia ke mauha o ngāwe re rei. Ko e toko taha re rei e ni ke request a connection ko ia I he LinkedIn pia oku ne whai a ngahi ako lahi pia oku lahi au pito I kakai oku nao ngāwe ki ene services. Kono hingoa beko. Can you say out your full name so those in LinkedIn that really need the help for jobs, among other things, that they can look you up and connect?
Yes, absolutely. I am listed as Emily, Emilie Martinson, Martinson, and then I have MED as part of my name.
Okay, awesome. So when did it begin for you? I remember we always follow each other's stuff. Okay.
Yes.
When did it begin that you see that you have something that everybody needs? Is this something that you think a lot about it before, or something that you were sort of like during the pandemic, you were inspired that this is a service that everybody needs? If you don't mind sharing, would be great.
I don't mind at all. I'd love to. So for a while, I've always wanted to be a business owner. I just never quite knew what I wanted to do. And so in 2018, I left my job with Salt Lake County and I started a freelancing business as a resume writer. And in my mind, all I was going to do was write personal marketing documents. And what ended up happening is one of my former clients begged me to be his coach. And I had never officially been a career coach, but I decided to go ahead and help him out with it. So my very first client, I ended up helping him get a position within 45 days in a new field that he had never worked in. And it's weird because that's when it really clicked. That's when I realized, wait a minute. I enjoy doing this. It makes a lot of sense for me to do this because I always wanted to have someone who could guide me through the career development and through career kind of changes. And so from that point on, I never really looked back. I still do resume stuff. It's not my favorite because it's stressful, but the coaching, it all makes sense because a big part of it is educating my clients on appropriate processes and also the systems at play. So yeah, that's what I'd say. It wasn't always in the cards, but it fell in beautifully.
Oh, awesome. So how does your culture as Tahitian or Polynesian help into this coaching that you do?
I would say if I had to if I had to, provide just one answer, it would be based off of what I hear from a lot of clients. And it's my ability to see things from different perspectives, and to be able to ideate solutions and integrate problem solving approaches that are maybe unconventional, but they kind of work. And I think that is in line with my background in having lived in Tahiti, having to learn two new languages, having to uh, kind of reassess and realign my cultural behavior, my cultural values. That all of that enabled me, I think, to just see the world differently, and to see, most importantly, to see people differently. Um, that's probably, yeah, it's a tough question. I need to think a little bit more about it, but off the cuff, that's what I'd say.
Yeah, I think you said something that I think is crucial to your development. That as an 11-year-old, you help your two brothers take care of them. The caring and taking care of them. I'm sure you have done a lot when you went home to Tahiti. That kind of caring, I can tell from the way you post things and the way you position the kind of question that some people, because there are a lot of people that dread being interviewed. And looking at your post, and I thought, man, I wish I had read this thing before I get into interviews. you
Well,
know,
that makes me happy that you find some value in them. I didn't, I don't know, I didn't realize that. I don't know. I guess I never realized that, it expands even outside of people who aren't necessarily seeking. So that means a lot. Thank you.
yeah. And, last year I changed jobs last year. And so initially the company came and offered me a position as director of research and development. And it was kind of strange to me. And I remember I spent a lot of time Googling how to answer questions and things like that. So I kind of like put them together and study them. And quite frankly, when I look at how you position questions, how you answer questions, and those are difficult questions. I wish I had that before I went into to this interview.
Well, it sounds like you did really well because you have the new position, right?
Yeah, yeah. So the VP that interviewed me quite interesting to me because I'm familiar with the VP interview, and after that whether you get an offer or not. But after that, I was also, she said, also like to have the team interview you. And I thought,
Panel interview.
okay, yeah. And I thought, this is strange. And then after that, she called me back and said, well, I'd like for you to also interview with the CXO, the Chief Experience Officer. And I thought, this is strange, very strange, And then to make the matter worse, well, in my thought at the time, after the interview with the CXO, the Chief Experience Officer, she said, oh man, I really love it. I really have a good experience interviewing with you. Now, I would like for you to, here's the link for Zoom to be interviewed by the CEO of the company.
Oh my goodness.
I wasn't stressed out, but to me, I thought that was weird. It's not what I accustomed to because I have been on the other side, interviewing people as a team and things like that and making recommendations. So that has been my experience. And what you said in LinkedIn is pivotal to having not just a great interview, but to actually enjoy the interview.
Yes.
That's the part that most of us sometimes that we are afraid of.
Yes.
Can you explore a little or expand on that, please?
Absolutely. So one of the main reasons that interviews are so anxiety inducing is because it seems like an inquisition. and it seems like you got a spotlight on you. You have to make sure that your answers are perfect. And so the overall approach, or the general approach, is very misconstrued. The interview is designed to be a two-way interview, where a company is interviewing you and you, the candidate, are also interviewing the company. And that's the piece that a lot of people miss. They tend to enter with a mindset of, okay, I really need this company. I really need this company. But they never think to consider, well, this company also really needs me. One of my favorite lines to use, and this is from a CEO of a company called Work It Daily. She says, as a candidate or as an employee, you're a business of one. Really, you're a business of one. And so when you come together with an organization, whether it's for profit or nonprofit, you're exchanging your business services with another corporation or organization or business. And so when you're entering into the interview, taking it with that in mind of, okay, I'm interviewing them as well, is one of the most important components to it. Another really quick part that I'll share is another reason why people are nervous is it's really difficult to articulate what you do, and it's really difficult to talk about yourself. People don't like to talk about themselves. People generally don't like to talk about their accomplishments, and it can be very, very uncomfortable, right? To have to talk to someone you don't know and say, oh, well, I did this and I did that, and because of me, this happened. And what I like people to do is switch that perspective. And instead of, congratulating yourself or doing some sort of celebratory speech of all the things you did, you just say it in a very factual manner of, okay, well, my team was charged with doing XYZ. My responsibility in this specific project was to do ABC. Because I was able to design, develop, and implement A, we were able to have, to increase our sales or something like that. When you remove the emotion, when you remove the adjectives, and you just say it straight out what you did, you realize that you're not talking about yourself. You're recounting a story. You're recounting events that were factual, and they just happen to include you. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, because a lot of us Polynesians like to tell stories.
Yes.
We should be good at interview, tell stories.
I would think. I love that you said that. It's absolutely true. And it really is about stories. And yeah, we Polynesians, we should be some of the best.
Yeah, and we just have to make sure that our stories don't go on and on. It's a time bound.
Yes, that's true. That's a good point.
Yeah, we have certain uncles that they go on and on. After an hour, they're still going. So
yes, that's true. And it's funny because a lot of times it's the same story that's told over and over. It's still funny. You still laugh. But yes, sometimes it just goes on and on.
Yeah. So your services, being out there as Tahitian and as Pacific Islanders, it really starting to, and I saw a lot of CEOs that make comments on your posting and things like that. You really... probably they don't expect Pacific Islanders to do such things. Well, what's your feeling on that?
Well, I don't think they know that I'm Polynesian. I don't exactly look like it, but that's okay. I don't know. I think those who do actually know my heritage, that's a good point. I don't know what they would think. I think perhaps in their minds it would be, I know I haven't seen very many career strategists or career coaches working specifically with professionals in STEM who are also Polynesian. I'm sure they exist, but within, the small bubble of Utah or within the small bubble of the Salt Lake Valley, I don't know that I've seen any of them. I should probably ask.
Yeah, and with the internet, you reach across the globe, basically. Because I see people from different countries, they make comments, things like that. Or they put a like on that post, on things like that. So that it reaches the whole world. and people enjoy that kind of services, and they see the point you are making. Because I've talked to we interview for 2 positions right now in the company that we wanted formulation scientists, and one of them that he asked me if I know who you are because I think he saw one of the things that I like, and I said yes, and he said,
Oh,
well,
wow.
yeah, and then he said, well, I was reading the things that she was posting and talking about in preparation for this interview.
Wow. That's a wonderful thing to hear.
So, so I was teasing him, and I said, okay, I think you should get the job then.
Yes, I hope so. If not, I need to fix my advice.
Yeah, so he is interesting enough going through the same process, interviewing with the CEO. So, but it's interesting that everybody, I think it brings home the fact that everybody learns something from everybody.
Yes.
If we are
Yes.
open to learning happen in the classroom or outside the classroom. So our time as advisors to the Utah State Board of Education was quite interesting. There were a lot of things that I think that we were not familiar with, the politics of things.
Yes.
The,
Very true.
yeah, the politics was quite interesting.
Yeah.
I still connect with some of them, Dr. Dixon,
Oh, yes.
yeah, so we still talk, see how things are, things do. Because I asked her, we get the Tongan code. There's supposed to be a code for every class. So, and I told her, I think she asked me, I told her, so we need to have the code for Tongan classes. We're working on developing lessons right now
Oh,
that
wow.
it can be taken from anywhere in the world if you have to have access to the website, And I told her we must have Samoan, we must have Hawaiian, and Tahitian. Those are the 4 that I told her that we need to get codes. Every language arts, they have a code that must be used. And she asked me, the challenge we face with Pacific Islanders with their language, we don't have enough students to hire a teacher. So, and she said, if you talk to others, and now we're talking, you can actually develop a lessons for Tahitian that the kids who are Tahitian, they can access anywhere. And those access, of course, you've got to pay a subscription to it. And it will be easy to use by any of the school districts here in America, but also can be used anywhere else, wherever Tahitian or people who have been to Tahiti want to learn more about Tahitian, that they can do 4 years. And what she told me is good to have a introduction to the language, have the basic, the intermediate, and also the advanced. So that will give you 4 years to graduate with your language, that you actually learn and speak the language of your forefathers.
Yes.
So,
The interesting thing about that, and I haven't studied all of the languages, but when you understand one of them or learn one of them, there has to be overlap across the other ones. I don't know how similar Tongan and Tahitian are, for example. I don't know how similar Tahitian is to Samoan, for example. But I suspect, especially with syntax, because I think our syntax is very similar across all of the island languages.
yeah.
And also Tahitians, we're the only weird ones who decided to bring ours into it. But but the more original language spoken down there, Paumotu, that's actually related to all the other islander languages. Paumotu has the Ks, it has the Ls, it has the Nga, it has the kind of what I think are the original sounds. Tahitian is a variation of Paumotu. And so I'm wondering if maybe if we taught Paumotu, that would be more closely related to Hawaiian, Samoan, Tongan, Maori even.
Yeah, that is true because if you look at Captain James Cook diary, and he was talking about a gentleman that they pick up from Hawaii. Um, I think the gentleman's name was Omai, and when they got to Tahiti, Captain James Cook got there in 1769. When they got to Tahiti, they were curious to see if he actually understood the language. And they watched carefully as they have a conversation. And they were surprised that Omai Hawaiian understood Tahitian, you know.
Wow,
So,
I never heard that story. I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. I'd love to know what other people think, but I think there was one singular Polynesian language, and from there, I think different variations grew. I could be completely wrong, but what do you think about that?
yeah, I think I'm in agreement with one of the Samoan elders here who said, we all come from the same place, same people. We were dropped off in different islands, therefore our language is a little different.
Yes.
That's what he
Yes.
said.
Well, it sounds pretty accurate. Also considering that we were voyagers, we love to go between the islands, so that doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, so that is the kind. I think that's a good point that we need to develop the language so to keep them and have the younger generations learn, and you can learn from anywhere. You can access online, those kind of things so that the language of our forefathers are not lost.
Yes, I think, the more generations you have, the more, removed we become from the source. And this is just my opinion, but my belief is you cannot fully understand or access the stories of your lineage or the stories of your tupuna, your ancestors, your forefathers, unless you understand the language, because there are certain translations that just can't occur, that just aren't the same. And also a lot of it is captured in our songs, a lot of it is captured in our dances. And when you can connect the words or the phrases to to certain songs maybe that have been sung for generations, it helps you bring in things from the past into the present. My hope, I don't know, my hope is that the youth would be interested and would be committed to it, because learning a language is really hard unless you're in the location. Have you learned about about a lot of youth maybe who really are interested and really will commit to it?
Oh yeah, there are a lot of them. Of course, started off with, they always say, "We like to start with the," and of course, everybody loved the food, and then they go from there. So what they're saying then, which part of our curriculum development, that the introduction, you gotta introduce them to the food at the same time. There are some food that probably they don't get it at home, and it always works for Polynesians. So
Yes.
when you are full, you pay attention, not sleeping, but pay attention.
Yes, yes. I think that's a great idea. Food, the food component, and music. Music. Actually, my master thesis, my graduate thesis part of it was involving art or music in teaching adults new languages. And I think that could be a valuable avenue for teaching youth or even adults. I have cousins who are Tahitian. They don't speak Tahitian at all. Teaching all of us, better Tahitian, or for those who don't speak Tahitian at all, teaching them the actual language through song so they can connect it to something with a beat or a melody or a rhythm. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, agreed. So this has been, let me do this in Tongan, then I'll bring the time back to you to finish up. Ko iai ho eki mo e hamatapure, ko e ngā ue whaofa whai Emily, ka bau te mo tolu ko ia o ku ke iai ha mo whanau ka mawho ki hangai tamai o ku nau i he LinkedIn. Mo connect kia Emily tene lawa whai hanga hi tokoni kia teki mo tolu. Uhi ke mao hangau o toi lerei ange ai wahe, ko e kaulerei ai peia ki hono tokangai o e whamiri, ka maa whoki a ngai whakawaka ko i o mo me ai. So it has been a pleasure talking to you, Emily. Let me turn the time back to you for some wise words before you leave us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's been my pleasure being on here. I feel very, very honored. You know, if I had to leave wise words, I have to. I want to compel everyone, whether you're young or you're older, the importance of education in all its forms. My grandparents never had the opportunity to go to school. My grandpa taught himself to read and write using the only book that was translated in Tahitian, that was the Bible. He would go onto the sand and he would mimic the symbols on the pages, and he would use index finger to kind of write them out. And he always emphasized the value and the importance of education to all of his children. And I'm grateful that my mother brought that lesson from the islands of Tahiti to Utah, and she made sure all of her children learned, whether it was through informal means or formal means. And so to anyone listening, if you don't want to do college, you don't have to do college, but you've got to do something to expand your understanding. Education, education, education. And that's my final word.
Thank you, Emily. We love and appreciate you for sharing your wisdom and your experiences, both from the Tahitian culture and also for what you do professionally for a lot of professionals that are in Lincoln and worldwide. Appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Ko iei ho e ki pia mo e hamata pule, ko e lava ia e ki i whakaike e ke atu o Emily, ko e tō tahako ni une whae ngai coach ki he kau professional, o kunau ngau e aki pia nau hoko ko e konga o e LinkedIn. Ko LinkedIn, ko me ko e kau professional ia, me hangi nai ko e Facebooka, ka ko e kau professional ia, ko e wheitu ia ko unau iai. Pea oku mau inga au pito ke whai ngahi ngā au e whakataha ke tokoni ke o whānau koe na e toki osi mai pia mehe ako ka pau te kai ke mao hanau ngā au e rei pe o kunau whia mao ke te upgrade e nau ngā au e he koe taini mi ho e ki mo hamata pule oku no pe o sodet ai kau ngā au e pea i hene pe ko ngahi u company ku nau hangarewa o tukuhake ai nau waheki o lunga, he goe uhi ku lahi whoki pia moe inflation. Koe tahia he uhinga lahi pehe pia e lava pia mao hangawe u toi lerei yange, kau lerei ia ki he ne hoa pa moe whanau, pia ki mo tolu pe ngai whunga waka koe au mo me ai. Mo ke tuku atu ha ki fo i tu waki heni pe ka hili koe au hata fo i fasi, pia tau toki hoko atu. Malo.
Koe whanonongo e ni me pot ngā aue puri anga Amerika, kuri toka ngai kina mo ulelei ai kakai. Whakapapau i oku ke malu i aha o whanau mo whamiri e whonga lelei taha teke lava, ai a koe huhu malu i COVID-19. Ko os ngāhi makehe ai huhu malu i ma ailonga i whanau tau nima ki e tau tahataha. Koe ahoni kua me te tau pe ai mau he COVID-19 e kakai lalahi mo e longa i whanau. Kua whakapapau i whoki koe toko nima kotoa pe o kumau e COVID-19, koe toko tahai koe longa i whanau. E ke lewa ki o toke tā, ha whahinga whehu i whikau aki mo e huhu malu i, pia kumi lewa wheitu anga huhu o whitaha ki a koe i e website www.vaccines.gov. Whakapapatu me pot ngāwe puri anga Amerika o kune toka ngai kina e mo uilelei a kakai piko US Department of Health and Human Services.
O ko kei lai ko e nuku hiwa. I kai, ko i vai nonu ia e tau whangakui. O katoa ia ono aho mo no pōni. Pea whakasai nisa aho no ngā hui. He e kuinu ngō fua aho no anga. Pea taha awhe nimangi au aho no mamana. Seuke. Pea toi whakaatu i foki mo hono kakala. He ko hono aonga ko tāki tahi, pea tāki uta. No ngā ia suka, ngā koe toto, mo toto maolunga. Saigi ai arthritis, kauti, pea moe kahi. Pea whakatau pasi ai mafte fua, ata mai, moe iwi lahi. Tai whanaahi ai mo uilelei he ko hono tawi ia. He koe nonu na e tori ia me Hawaii, Tahiti, Haamoa, pea mo Tonga, pea kuone mawhola i Europe, Asia, pea mo Amerika lahi. Koe nuku hiwa ia pea mo hono ngahi aonga, tā rewa, ki otaha o nuku hiwa, ki he ono walua, ni ma ono wha, fitu nono ataha. Ono walua, ni ma ono wha, fitu nono ataha.
Akau ko hota whanua, whakatapuri, koe motu o tonga. Way
e hoi ki mo e haamata pule. Whiwhia ke tai rea ki mo tolu ki he paenga o he Vake Tali Folau. I he whiawhi whakakoloa ko e ni pēa i hene pehe o ko lotma pe ke hoko atu ai vahe pēa mi he wike ko o si ko uhi ko hono aonga o e ngahi mea ko ia o ku vahe. Pēa ko e ngahi whihu i ko ia na e whai mai mi he wike ko o si kau ke ai polisi. Whamalaut ka koe Honorable Mary Mela tu taulahi ka ngau lahi o ke whai mai pia mei he naha ko whiahulufi e no fo whanongo pia moe sio. Pia aia koe vahe ka na e whai o whikau aki pia moe ngai whakatotolo na e whai e Dr. Tucker pia mei he University ko ia o Brigham Young University in Provo. Koe whehui na nau whekumi kia teki nau tolu ko ia o ku nau inu ai hua kau pe sete taha, mo inu ai hua kau pe sete ua. O kua e whole milk, o kua e hua kau pe sete ua, o kua e hua kau pe sete taha. I he nau ngahi whakatotolo, o ku ha mahino me iai, o ku i kai ke sai, ai ngau aki ai hua kau koe pe sete ua, ka oku saiangi ai pesete taha he pesete ua. Ko whenai ai hua kau ko ia oku le rei taha. Kia tau tolu koe o tonga, o whabege taki ho mō manatu ki he taimiga na tau i tonga ai. Ko manatu i maupe i he wha ai ko ia ai ki i lai keke vai, pe koe osi ko ia ai whahaki kai tōpai. Ko manatu i ho mau api, o toe te viripe e ongo vai e ku ongo kui ke toe ai e na ki i o ngalo anaua. Pau ke tu ma ope ki tika tere pe a whaino ai ko i he tangata eki ko alpe mo ki here o tu usi fo i lo mo ngalo e ua pe ko o mai ko ia pelu wha ko ne osko pe a rewa hangi unusi. Pea ke tuku rewa ia ki loto ki he pea koe ne liri pea to'o rewa ki tua ke ki moko si osko ia pea o atu rewa pea mohono niu. Aia ko hono ngau e aki a hange hahu a kau. Mō manatu i e ngai whanua muri o ku ngau e aki nau tolu ai creamer. O ku kamataini ke kau mai ai niu, hono ngau aki ki he creamer i he coffee, pea ngau aki pea moe mocha. Kato e ngahi umea ko ia ko e ngahi umea ia ai pālangi ku osi whakahoko pe tau tolu i tonga, hono ngau aki ai niu. Aia ko no wau pe whaini e taha pea tatau, pea ring rewa ai aia o kui rewa ia ko e organic, pea virgin coconut milk. Koe mo uile rei taha ia i he mama koe ni. Koe ke te vei ua ngai whakatotolo ko ia ko oswhai. Pea ai peha ki me isuka si pe koe me ko wanga maheni koe ki ai. Aia koe whanki ngā ue ni aho iki mui haamata pule. Whahe monite ke sāpate. Pea i he taimi koe keisi i kawi ha mea whakapiko. Koe hui te lota whokita ke te alu ki he mapu. Sai fok mo taulia na mo mapu reiki mo toko matoga mapu tui pe. Ka pea ka osiko ia hono aigo ki me isuka pea rei pea tamai rewa ke o mai e na ki i mapakpaku. Pea ka pau ai ha mapakpaku pea ku whawhia mau pe ke riri osiko ia pe aiela i mo ngalo wa i kai pe mo ki i fo i niu hu ako ia o niu a ko no i whakapapalangi he tainimi ko organic ia pe e lava pe o toi ui ko e virgin coconut milk hangi ka lau e fin motu a me ui ha ko e coconut milk ia pe mea si ho vaia pe kai ke te ha coconut milk e toi le rei ange pea peheni lewa, osiko ia pea o atu lewa ki lai mapakpaku, tuku I ko mantu ma peki fo I polu, pe ringi ki ai, o tuku ke hangi ko o me molu au pito me have, pe oska pe hua ia, ke haki ipu, ka e to mai ki me I pata havari aki, ka pau kui henia risita ka fo atu vea pe o te ke tolo, ai ki me I pata ko ia, ki me I pata nusila, na ta wanga maheni ki ai, ai peo ki me I pata si, pe tuku ia ke toi hu ki ai patok to mai rewa, e na o kai ai ki lai mapakpaku, pe inu rewa ka kauia I he coconut milk o le reitaha. Kaike I he tau whakapaea I ngai whanua muri. Ka pau ko ke whie mau ai koia. Koe uhi ngai ni koe nei whai e whakatotolo. Ia tau sino te utoki lawe ki ai a muiange. O ku iai ai whainga mea o ku ui koe telomeres. Pea I he telomeres koe taimi ko tau koe motu ange koe hata tau. Koe no ange ai telomeres pea mui mai ai ai ngahi maha ki whakasino. Pea koe taha ia o ngahi mea fua o ku ngawe aki whakasainisi ke fua ai mea goia o tau whainga ki ona tau au ki ai aging. Motu ange. Pea o ku develop lewa ai ngahi u anti-aging. Aia koe ngahi whakatotolo koe ni a Dr. Taka, koe kakai koe na nau ngawe aki mau ai pe seti e ua. Motu ange ki nau tolu ia o hiu no ange ha nau telomeres ake tau e nima. Whakawhiawanaki a teki nau tolu koe ia o nau winu ai pe sete taha. Mo mantu I whuka hua kau pe hen koe taimi ko tatau mai hua kau pe hange pe koe mea na wanga ki ai tonga. Pea ai rewa hakao, koe rewa hano kirimi loto. Me koe whole food, koe whole milk ia. Aia o saengi e te mau kapau te mau mea ai whole milk. Ka kofe ai milk koe o kule reitaha, koe whehu ia. Ka o rewa ke tuku ate ki pui tua o hike mahino ngofua a hono whai e vahe koe ni. Aia rewa tau pehe koe whole milk, e hanga koe ia o he tuu o ku kakato ai pesete tolu nima koe na lau kia Dr. Kingilangi. O e milk proteins. Pea kore peke hufanga I he whakatapu, pea hufanga atu I he talamalu e whanua. Koe mother's milk, o pesete pe nima ai proteins. Paki hangarewa o whakawhiawanaki o hona kehe. Pesete nima, mother's milk, ai au whawhanga ki tau tolu na tau hoko koe ngahi pepe. I he taimi ko ia ki he pesete tau nima ai milk ia ko ia ki he pulu, koe uhi ke tupu wawe e whanki I pulu. Kona kehe ia. Pero taimi ko ia o ku tau mauai ai pesete tau nima pea o ku wairewa ai ngahi mea au whaahoko ki ai. Uhi ku mahaki mau pe ai ngawe ake pesete tau nima. Pea koe anga ko ia e nau ai ko ia o pesete taha mo pesete ua. Tau pehebe hange koe ni. Ka pau te u ai ki ha mililita. Te u o mai ha mililita e taha. Pea hui ki ai mililita vai e hiwa. O mililita ia e hongo fulu. Ka pau koe lahia o e kuki ifo I tiupi, pe koe ha e ki I ipu, pe koe ha, whanki ipu koe Snow White pe moe kau aia koe o kuire vaia koe pesetia, pesetia taha. Pero paure o whemau ke pesete ua te lava peo ai haki fo I mililita e ua, hua kau me he whole milk, pea o atu rewa ai vai ki ai. Ai mahina mai rewa o ki lahiange ai protein I he pesete ua ko ia hua kau I he protein ko ia I he pesete taha. Ko e hua kau le rei taha ki ka pau te ai hanga he umea pehe ku kaifu ke toi anga I whainga tō lahi I he ngawe aki ko ia ai hua kau ko ia o he niu. Ka kua kamata rewa ke mafola, ai whainga hua kau ko ni koe hua kau nia o kulerei ange hua kau ko ia o pulu. Ulo aki, o kulahi e kakai unao ngā ake hua kau ko ia me soy milk. Pea o pau ka ke sa ia koe soy milk, whafo ofa pe ia. O kunau toi o maifo ke hua kau, o ngawe aki ai almond milk. I he mahau koe wafe taha fitu, I he hiri a ngahi whai a ngahi whakatotolo, lahi pia toe lau a koe uhiko ngahi project I he kautaha. Pia toe lau ke mahino ange pia maala ange a ilo, pia toe lahi ange whikau aki pia moe mea koe ni. Liliu rewa e mau ngau aki a hua kau, kai e te whakatau a hua kau ia pesete taha puka hua kau pesete ua pe koe whole milk. Whakatau mau pe ai hua kau ko ia koe almond milk. Pea koe almond milk, koe lahi taha oe almond milk o ngahia, pe ngahia pe mehe almond o kutō ko ia I California. Ka oku mamafa, pea oku peheni anga ko ia sio koe ka. Uhi koe kalani taha umahalo taula e tolu mo se niti. E hua kau ko ia pesete taha puke pesete ua. Tuke haki mo tolu ko ia I Hawaii, oku mamafa ange hua kau. Pea koe almond milk lewa aoe ono o mai ko ia o ngau ai koe soy milk, oku iai ai almond milk, koe ngahi hua kau ia koe oku lerei taha. Ko mautolu, ngau ake ki mautolu ia ai hua kau ko ia koe almond milk. Ka pau te ki hanga whakatonga ai. Te ka lawa maweni pia me Winco, te lawa maweni pia me he Sam's Club, te lawa mau ai hua kau koe ni pia me Walmart, ka maa foki a Costco. Pia mga hi whare koloa ke he. Aia koe fo I hafe, hafa kalan, hafe kalani oktola e ua senite ni manoa. Uia he kau palange ni hok mamawhaya. Te whakatau mai ka, koko alma o pēkuia whakatau e fo I cartoon pe he wha. Lere a kia kone o si pe, pēr tau whakatau mai. Mo ui lere ange ai sino hono ngawe aki ai almond milk, pēr te ke whakatoka ngā I pēku kamata ke nau mama e ata mai o kau saia nisi koe ni. He kou talanoa ki he niho ki nau tolu me California, I he brand ko ia, kuna kamata rewa ke nau hanga mix mai ai coconut milk. Mo hanga whakatonga I ngea. Pea alu rewa au ia he tainim kou saia he whakatau ko au laki aluma peo kumi ai plant. Ai a koe whakataha ia almond milk, pea moe kaukei, pea moe coconut milk. Ho eki moe hamata apure. Ko e tau coconut milk o kauia I he milk le rei taha ki he sino. I kaia koia pe ka koe whainga mi e na e anga ki ai e tau whangakui o lau I senturi. Pea manatu ina toki o mai ki mui ai pulu ai hau koia a Captain James Cook. Ai ana hao Captain James Cook, hao ki tahita fitu ono hiwa, hao ki tonga ta fitu, pea toa tolu ene foki mai, whakaosi e ta fitolu, whakaosi e ta fitu. Mo mana tui, ko ne fofua hao koia a Captain James Cook, na ulaki tuku atu ai hosi I eua. Pea foki mai koia a Captain James Cook honoua. Pea fia ai kapteni une whakaukau te molampeo lau ene tairi o kuyaipe. Kai koha koe to o kongalalahi pe nia. Pea hau ia ko o wakai atu ai osi. Pea koe tari koe ai kāinga. Pe he mautolu ia koe glorified dogs. Koha kuri la lahi. Pea nau hanga le vana tolu o tamatei. Kore pe hufanga whakatapu. Pea mau mea tokoni pe me hosi. Ene foki mai hono ua, hono tolu, Ne te hanga rewa o mai ai hosi mo pulu pe mo ngahi umea keke. Aia ka toki kamata ia ke inu hua kau pulu ai tonga mo mau mea tokoni mei he pulu. Hiri ko iana tau mau mea tokoni pe mei tahi, mei o seni, ka maafoki ai ngawe aki ai whangamoa, pe mo ngahi ala mea pehe o tau mau mea tokoni me he rimu. Katoa e ngahi umea ko ia ne mo uile rei ai ho tau kakai. O perewa e he kapteni o ku te ki ai ke ne sio ki ha kakai o ku kiri le rei hange ko tau kakai. Mu whakatau ngā iangea. He ko e tahania o i kau helo kaiwai ai kau pālangi hono takai i o i mamani. Pea osi noate pea mo saute Amerika e nea o ki ai pea ne ilo i rewa ai fōtunga kau India kula, fōtunga o i kau India me mina e ui kotoa pe he kau kaiwaia, ai kakai kotoa pe ko i kau India. Hange koe fofua hau koe ki tonga, aia koe hau ia i he tahaono tahataha. Ko tui koe hongo o maia pe mei Holani. Ko manatui ai lau koe ia o nau tohi noa. E nau ulaki o mai koe fofua fitu takia mo tonga ki tawhahi. O whai e nau ngahi u whakawhetongi. A te ki fo i whao ka hao ngai fu. Kausaine. Pe koe o mai ai hopa, pe koe o mai ai niumata. Pe koe whakamatala koe ia ai kau tangatani na nau pehe. Nau ki iri fia foki. Ui e nau toka kau India, koe hui nau set na tolu. Oku ai angai fōtunga o e ulu, pe mo fōtunga o e teunga, pe mo i kiri. Pea pehe koe he whakamatala ai ongo kapteni koe ni, ai oku kauheni a Suten Moremea, pe mohani ihke. Ka nau ongo i ok nau ki tairi iri e nau mo ui o hiu kufu u tokolahi mai ai kāinga. Pe mi tawhahi. Pe nau hangarewa o whanai, ai mea whana o hi ki hoa whakatokanga ke nau ki i taitaimi. Whakatonga e nau tōri au kai kia taitaimi e pe nau kamata rewa ke nau whana au tau kakai. Pe nau hola rewa te ria na tamte ki nau tōlu. Aia ko ki nau tōlu ko toi pēna e toki o mai ki muini o kaua Captain James Cook ne whakatonga i oku māmai kakai pea uhinga ia ne whakahingoa a tonga koe otmotuanga o wha, Friendly Islands. Ne ongo pē na iaha ni ihia bea me foi one na hanga na tōlu o lamalamasi ke tamatei ai kapteni ka nei kai ke hoko. Koe ngai historia mo onia o tau whonua. Ka te whoki ki he mea koe au ku whai koe ki ai wahe wahe. Ki he kansa, pea koe o ku kau ai kansa ho eiki mui hamta pule hango na wahe wahe i he wike kua o si. Koe whika ua ia i he ngai mamahaki whakasino o e polinsia. A whainga kansa pe, pe au ku ai hono whakatua tuunga. Ai arewa koe tangata, me koe kansa ki nau tau ke prostate. Pea ke kakai whewhine, me koe kansa ko ia o whika ulaki ia teki nau tolu ai breast cancer. Ai arewa ho eiki mui hamta pule koe te taimigo te siwai ke hanga ko ia o e teira. O kaike te hamea ia ko toi holo ki lalo. O ku kakape ia ki olunga. Pea tonu lewa ke whai ai tokanga ki ai lofa, ke whai hono talaki, o hiko e matangi koe ki he mo uilerei. Pea, nai kamata pē me hiwa walu, ai ku whai ai ngahi u whekumi whikau aki pia mo i kansa. Kau hiko e, nai malolo, ai tokoua e ku whae, a tapaita he wifanga to angutu o shea, pia me he breast cancer. Ko e toko tahaini na ne hanga o poupoui ki mautolu, pea ne teke mau pea e mau inga ko ia o iako. E na mau tupu mautolu i e whaamiri na i ka iako. Ho eiki mo e hamata apune. Pea ko tui pe o ki maulolonga tuku ataha ki fo I tu ake taha ma ki fo I whasehen pa tau toki foki mai. Uhi ke wahewaheni ke aonga ai mea ko lota ke wahewah te whikau aki pia mo I kansa, pia mo I ngahi hala mea pehe. Malo.
Pisi, po mau e taki taunga o tau e futeria ki e ta whanau me whakamapuna.
Matala I lose, ko e retirement, mahalo pe ko e reni pe hawhare, ke tana fwai.
E ho, pisi, pia fefe le vai e kai mo inu. Fefe ha taim ke taki e vai, fefe ta ka venga fa family me fasiasi. Fefe o ka ahovale pe ko tala mai e toke ta, ko mau ko he kansa pe ko mahaki mafu, pe kai ke to e lava o ngā aue.
Te unga Matala I lose, ko inda fihi e whakaukau.
Fefe o ka pau teke mate, os mau pe mea kotoa ke whako putu, mua konga mala e hoi a weho pisi teke poto a fe.
Ikai, ko me e a ko e teke moui, e ko Matala I lose.
Ah, mani, ko whainga tari e nai o finisia e la via. Ka inga tonga, ta lewa ke whika telefoni hiva taha ono wha fitu taha walu fitua, pe ko fitu ni ma wha taha ua, walu noa ono, ta tawa I pepe ko hai tunga wha molele o ke iai, pe whaka immigration o ku ke iai, ta mai ko he kuma tā katoa maua oua. Io, te matoko ni iko ke ngoi fie malie, pe kai ka venga iga, aho o whanau I he ka au. Pea whakawhei ko I e polokalama whakatu amelie ki hao taunga o tau I e futerie, I e taimi fitu ki he malu, e fiafi toko naki kotoa pe I le tio Vake Tali Folau. Whakapapau I lewa, o whe unga a ho taunga o ke tau whetuku ki ai, I e futerie ma a ho whanau mo e whanga makapuna. Whika telefoni, hiva taha ono whafitu taha walu fitua, pe ko fitu nima, wha taha ua, walu noa ono.
Ko iai halolo ia ko ngahui pia vilohi, pia mix mei palataisi. Ke whakatori a ngahi whakaamu whakasino mo ata mai. Ke mili pia ke whakasanisani mo masani mo whakamanifi. Pia ke foto aki ia ke hakatoa ngā aholahi. Pia ke toki ilo ai e mamani, ko e loloni ia, ko e tāpu aki mei langi. O ua, he he!
Hoi ki moe hamata pule whiwhia ke taitai rea ki mong tolu ki he paenga o e Vake Tali Folau I he whiwhia ke taitai rea ki mong tolu ki he paenga o e Vake Tali Folau I he aho whakakoloa koe ni. Pea I hene pehe o ku whiwhia maupe ke taitai rea ki mong tolu kau mawhaka ki nau tolu o ku nau whie wahe o e nihe ngahi mea o tokoni ki a teki nau tolu ki he mo uile rei. Pea I he whiawhini ki fo I hawhi houa koe ni ki he walu whiawhia ke taitai rei heni ai taha o ngai friend koe ni pea me he Unicity Darlene, we welcome you and thank you for being here and I hope that it will sound better this time instead of the last time.
Hey, it's okay, Alpha. I can hear you now absolutely fine. So there you go. And hey, it's just for me mastering all this technical stuff. So anyway, I apologize that it was such a mess last time, but thank you for inviting me back.
Yeah, it's good to... hey, how is the weather there?
How's the weather? Well, right now, our streets in our yard are sheets of ice.
Wow.
Because we had snow and then it got really above freezing today and rained. And then tomorrow it's going to be minus 20. So it's crazy weather here. And so the wind, we have a north wind. So I live on my backyard is on the bay, Georgian Bay. And we have a really strong wind coming directly out of the north across that. And it chills you to the bone. So it's quite something.
Yeah,
Used to it, this is where I grew up, right?
Yeah, I can only imagine. So I remember when I went January 5th, I forgot what year it was that I was invited to speak in a meeting in Wisconsin, and also we traveled to St. Paul, Minnesota, and that was a rude awakening, minus 25.
Yes, if you took a big long string and you went right across from my house, you could go straight across the water, Lake Michigan, all of it, you would go snap right into Wisconsin and straight through to Minnesota. It's exactly like that.
Yeah, so I recognize then that the island boy was not made for this kind of weather.
I once had somebody ask me, say, what is minus 20 or minus 30 like? And I said, well, I don't quite know how to explain it to you, except for every single coat you got in the closet you would wear, and then you would take your biggest, warmest blanket and wrap it around you. So there you go.
Yeah.
It's very cold.
So what do you do in order to stay warm? Do you drink your unimate lemon ginger or the lemon, or do you do that hot?
Yeah, no, I actually don't drink my unamate hot. I drink it cold, and I shake it. I like it cold. I like it shook. Sometimes I like, some lime in it, and sometimes I like some extra lemon in it. The ginger one, we don't get the ginger in Canada, but I get the ginger, sometimes through the States. But the ginger one is what is my favorite, actually. And of course, Unicity never makes a mistake. There's a reason why they put ginger in with the unamate, because it just increases that ability for it to help your digestion and all the good things for your immune system that ginger brings, right?
Yep.
So I actually drink my unamate cold. I prefer it cold. I don't drink anything hot.
Okay.
No, I used to drink coffee all the time, but I don't drink coffee any longer. These drinks have replaced it. First matcha replaced the coffee for me, and now the unamate, and sometimes I mix my unamate with my matcha, and I really like that. It gives me, one time somebody said when you drink these drinks, it's almost you can feel them begin to work by the time they hit the back of your mouth. That's how fast you feel that refreshing. And this is how I begin my day. And I know that you asked me to talk about how I use my products during my day. I begin every day with this, and I wait for my hunger. So that was how I was told to do it. And it really surprised me that I wasn't getting hungry. So I usually get up at 7 a.m. and I have my matcha, and I most frequently don't eat until afternoon. Wow. It takes me that long way. But then before I eat anything ever, and my lunch then is normally protein. So I used to be very, very heavy. I'm not slim skinny now, but I used to be very, very heavy, and I've fought too much weight all of my adult life since my children were born. And I started to eat with the principles that, we've been taught, or I've been taught over the recent years, with the, make sure that you got enough protein in your diet, make sure that you got enough fats in your diet, and make sure that you have enough complex carbohydrates, which are fiber-rich vegetables. And even this is a fiber. And so I find that I'm only actually eating 2 meals a day anymore. And my body is reacting really, really well. The other thing that improved for me, Alpha, was I had 2 really severe head injuries over the last 20 years. And the first head recovered, and I'd had complete memory loss. It was such a dramatic accident. I woke up and I didn't know who I was or where I was or who my husband was. It was really bad. And I had to relearn even how to write at that time. And then a few years ago, 4 years ago, I had another fall on ice and hit my head. And the injury became progressive. So it started to progress, that so much so by the time 3 months or 4 months had passed, I knew I was in big trouble. And right around that time, I was introduced to unamate, and I was introduced to MCT oil and coconut oil in my diet, and the protein are algae base. And I promise you, I started it, and beyond just losing quite a few pounds over 90 days, what happened to me was my memory came back, And I mean, I started to remember things that I had forgotten years and years and years ago. And I started to research, like, what was that was going on? And it was the combination of this here product with the fats and the proteins in my diet. And it just, like, I found out about ketones and how ketones heal the brain and heal any organ, but it truly has changed my life. And I love my memory now. I always had an enormous memory before the first car accident, and it's back now as good as it was, 30 years ago for me. And I say that these products and the principles that we use to feed ourselves now has changed that. And I know I've been with this company AFA for 30 years, almost 30 years, in my 30th year. And I was 40 when I joined this company.
Wow.
And when I joined the company, I knew nothing about it. But I decided that whatever the products helped me. I was diabetic. I was a type 2 diabetic when I joined the company. I was very heavy and getting heavier. I had a lot of aches and pains, and I was scheduled for some pretty major surgery. And I said that I wasn't going to have the surgery. I was at the hospital, sitting in the waiting room, and I said, I'm not going to do it. And I got up and I walked out of the hospital and never had the surgery. And everything that I did step by step with these products changed my health around completely. My A1Cs are running like at 5.1, 5.2.
Wow.
And my if you test my blood glucose, it's running, sitting there 5.4, 5.6 regular. And I say it's because of this product here, Balance. We have a brand new customer who had not seen his blood. He's a fireman in the Midwest in the US. His blood glucose on metformin was running 220, 240 every single day.
Wow.
He went on these two products and takes it exactly like I just said. Take this, wait for your hunger. Take this before anything hits your mouth. And for every meal you have, I told Brian, for every meal that you have, you don't eat anything without a balance. I don't eat anything without a balance. And he texted me this week, and I will tell you, he is so excited. He is so excited. Where are you? And he says that here it is, Doug Collins. He says that it is the first time that his blood glucose has been at 120 in 5 years.
Wow.
And he did that in 3 weeks. And I told him, just keep going, because, he's 30-minute exercise away from 90. Like, if he went out and did some really good exercise, from 120, his blood glucose would drop to 90, 100 pretty quickly. And so it's just the way and the principles that we eat. So the principle is that I use now is make sure I have a really good, what we call a fat burning zone, where I'm burning fat on my body and the fat in my diet, producing these ketones to keep my brain young, and I'm finding that it's keeping everything young for me, and my energy. I take no drugs of any kind, and I put Balance in front, and I take my other supplements, but these two are what is exciting people, and primarily they're exciting people because This will even help people that are feeling depressed, and that mood over the last 2 years that people are struggling with, and the stress that's out there. This really helps you deal with it. The coralogenic acid that's in here is like taking and drinking 350 cups of yerba mate tea. That's what one pack is like. That's how powerful it is. And so it doesn't take very long till you know you got something important in your body. And this here good old friend, this product has been studied for and researched, double-blind studies for more than 30 years. It has had 7 evolutions of formulation. And this balanced one is my favorite. We have this, and we have the Bio 7, which has got the microbiomes in it. But this one here is so good at just balancing, like even women who are going through menopause, Alpha, this will take away hot flashes. Between 2 or 3 of these a day will get rid of the hot flashes for women.
Wow.
Women are stunned when they find that out. And it has control my blood glucose. It'll control your blood lipids. And the reason why we call it balance, even though it was developed originally for cholesterols and blood lipids, is that we find that it balances so much in your body. So, you know, the little extra thing, can you continue to eat what you want and get these results that people are looking for? Not really, but they don't have to give up that much. I just ask them to eat more meat. I say eat more protein, use a meal replacement instead of a fast food for lunch, and just get rid of some of the rice and the potatoes and the pasta and the processed sugar, and boom, you can actually change your health in a very, very few short weeks. So I love these products. Tonight I had one of my people that I had the longest relationship with here in Unicity, and that's Aaron Weber, who is part of my support line. And he would love to come on and come and do what I'm doing and talk to your people about whatever they want to talk about. He's a Kiwi. He comes from New Zealand.
Oh, cool.
And he's an incredible guy. And he's done some really great things in the South Seas and with the Asian population in South Asia. He's responsible for Unicity being in Miramar, for that. So it's pretty exciting where you've wound up. And I'm so blessed to have met you and have you reached out to me and start to build this relationship. So I'm excited for that. I'm excited for your people because they're looking at some of the best products that they will ever look at on the market anywhere. And I'm excited with your expertise, with you bringing some of these plants to the plant bases to our product line, the moringas and stuff. I've studied some of them and found what they will do for people. And sometimes the old sages and the old cultural doctors, so to speak, have so many secrets on those foods that our hands are tied in some respects about what we can say. But my hands aren't tied quite as tight as yours, Alpha. So
Here's something that I found when I first joined the company. Okay, by the way, I think Dan is still could not believe that you and I connected. He just could not believe it. And I told him from day one when I met him, I said, I'm going to find somebody. Actually, there was somebody he gave me here in Utah, and I connected with with him and talk to him, but I don't think that he saw the vision that I was trying to. And say, well, I like people to move, and I like to work with people who see vision and things to get done. And so I connected with him September last year, and he kind of like keep on putting it out, and I forget it. This a new year, it's time to talk to somebody else. And I was just so happened to be on LinkedIn, and I saw you in there with the post, and so I immediately go to Facebook and look up the team that you built and start seeing their experiences, okay? Because to me, remember when I came, I was around 252 when I joined the company, and the product is great. The hard part for me is that making sure that I don't eat. So if I take my Unimate in the morning, okay, and then after I take them in the morning, then I also take my balance before I eat my breakfast, and then I say, okay, 4 hours. So the first week I had to put a clock, a time clock there to remind me. And after that, then I have lunch. I usually have a sandwich that my wife makes for me for lunch. Or sometimes I take my own lunch, a breadfruit or a taro that we have leftovers. And then I have to set the alarm for 4 hours. And then I get home and have dinner. And then I set my alarm for 12 hours, So I follow the 4 hours, and 12 hours. That was I was following very religiously. So at the end of the in-house clinical study, I was down at 220. I just could not believe it. I think the last time you were here, you talked about lifestyle, because I was still eating the same food I ate before. The lifestyle change for me is that I feel full after you take the balance, basically. Okay, so interesting, because I was at the BYU Brigham Young University today talking to a professor, and his name is Dr. Larry Tucker. Dr. Tucker just published a new research that he was looking at the effects of taking 1% milk versus 2% milk and what they do to your aging, but they look at the telomeres. So I spent an hour with him today. We're going to do some stuff for the Feel Great program using the products. We're still working those things out. Okay, but it's interesting to me that has become my lifestyle. In the morning when I get there, I always have to drink my balance first, and then I make up my bottles, the bottles that I have for the Unimate with water. And then I eat my breakfast, and then I drink that. Lunch, the same thing, 4 hours later, and then dinner, and then 12 hours later, back to breakfast again. I no longer set the alarm. That has become on my lifestyle. So
yeah, and I know that people say, you can do this and not change anything, but you did change things. You changed it quite a bit, actually. And I don't like to go and tell people culturally what they're going to eat. Like, I mean, I live in Gray County, and we are farmers here. We're farmers in tourism, and so there's beef and things, but we're farmers, and we also are gardeners. And so the things that I gave up was potatoes. And potatoes was a mainstay of our cultural diet in this area of Canada, at least. And I didn't give them up 100%, but they're not part of every dinner. So that was my really simple carb. And I gave up processed breads. And so not 100% do I never eat a processed bread, but it's a rarity, and now it really tastes good when I do it. And potatoes are like, you might as well give me candy as give me potatoes now, because I eat so heavy vegetables and protein. And if people are still hungry, you can use stuff like MCT oil on your salad or just over your hot vegetables, and it makes a big difference. This conversation about telomeres and 2% milk and milk, your people probably don't know that telomeres is like a tail on the end of a cell. And as we age, the telomere gets shorter and shorter. And that's when we start to show our aging. And the question has been, that I've researched when you're talking about telomeres, is can you restore those telomeres to a certain degree? And the answer is yes. And indeed, it's in our ways and in our fats that we can do a lot of that, as well as with some of our natural, master antioxidants like the glutathiones mixed with the proteins. So that's interesting. So you're going to do some studies on telomeres. You got an audience here, Ava.
Yeah, and I think we have about 5 minutes, and I think that you have set your goals, and from your goals you had to work out the system to see how are you going to accomplish those goals, right? So.
Right.
This program, the Feel Great program, that is the goal, to feel great, right? And usually you feel great when you are healthy, when you are able to move, go some places, and things like that. So it's the goal. The system is like you just said that, and I said that. So you wake up in the morning, you have your unamate. Before you have breakfast, lunch, and dinner, you have your balance. And then you have, whether you do the 4 and 12 hours that I follow, or something similar to that, that is the system. That's how you get there. And the in-house study, even though we haven't released them, the blood sugar goes down, bad cholesterol goes down, good cholesterol goes up, among other things that are really, really nice. And so we're planning to do a lot more than that, right? But I think for our audience, for those who are listening in, this system that is called the Feel Great system is simple, and the products are easy to implement, and sooner or later, a week or two, become a lifestyle to you that you live. So
it is. It's a lifestyle. It's a new behavior. A lifestyle is when you adopt new behaviors. Whatever it is, the behavior that you're adding, whether it's a product or it's a way of life or eating, this is something that will help you with build around a lifestyle. These are tools for that. And that will get you to wherever it is that you want to go, keep you energetic, keep you bright, keep you going and able to cope with everything that you want to challenge your body with, and get it done. And they taste good. Everything tastes good, and you feel it today. It isn't, you're not just the weight loss, the weight loss from 252 to 220, 32 pounds. You would have been able to see that after the first week on the scale had you got on the scale. But some people don't even think to get on the scale until their pants are too loose or their shirts are too loose. And the whole time you're doing something that tastes good. So it's simple and it tastes good. So it's pleasant and it makes you feel good. So that's the feel great, look great, live great kind of idea slogan. So thank you for inviting me back.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad there's not a mess going on here. And anytime, Alpha. And I really want to hear about your talk about telomeres.
Yeah. So let's
Not many people know what those are.
So let's invite the what's his name again for the next
Aaron
time we
Weber?
meet.
Aaron Weber.
Yeah. So connect me to him so we can have a conversation, and the next time we hop on for half an hour or so, make sure he's there so that he can share his side of the story so that everybody sees. And Ben, being a New Zealander, it's always great to hear from Islanders. So,
Absolutely. It sounds to me like it's a natural affinity for both of you. And you'll love him. He lives right there in Orem, Utah.
Oh,
yeah.
did not know that.
No. And he will be a really interesting connection for you. I shall make sure that you meet each other.
Okay, thank you, Talene. Appreciate you taking the time to share the Feel Great program and the systems that you are involved in and the group. Can you tell them one more time about the group on Facebook? You're only invited.
And they're all invited. And the group is called the Feel Great on the Lighter Side. So it's a long name. So do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to paste it into your messenger here.
Okay.
And they just can take that link, and it takes them right to the Facebook group, and they're going to be asked a question, and just answer the last question. And it says, who invited you here or introduced you? Just tell them to put AFA. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
And they'll come into the group and be able to look around and meet the people and see the videos. And there was a video, Aaron Weber and I did a video earlier this evening. We were talking about the business, the company, the history of the company. I think it's really good. So I think you'll enjoy it. And your people can go in and have a look around for that.
Okay.
And if anybody needs any help with getting the products, or if you can do that for them, Appa, God bless them. Just God bless them, and God bless you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Talene. Appreciate that. So I will see you next time.
Next time, Appa. Good night.
Okay, good night.
Cheers.
Malo au pito ki he whiwhine koe ni. Talene pe me kanata koe whanua whoki o ku lahiange ai momoko I hato e whanua ke. Kau ke a Lucia I he taimi ne urere tai ki Lucia koe whanua o ku momoko au pito. Kai ke tukumua ke tuku ataha ki fwoi tuwaki ma tau fwoi whasi pa tau whoki mai o hoko atu ki he talanoa ki he ako pia moe kansa. Malo.
Siva mai taimi Samoa.
Hoi ki mo ka inga tonga I kale. O kuke fie mauna I hao ki ha moa o iloa ko ie vai pe ie ini. Awa. Ko ne pepe ini o kuni whakamahino mai ai au iki ai kieni. Pea koe mate lalanga seuke. Hange iana lalanga ka misini kako eni. Koe si nima amo peia si ngai fae me ha amoa. O mao hene sais ke ingata pe I he au kako lahi o kie. Tā mai lewa ke hoko pe toi putu. Pe whakatau hao kie ke laulo tahai ho foi pere I kare. Fika telefoni, valu noa valu, whāni mafitu ono whā hiva ono. Valu noa valu, whāni mafitu ono whā hiva ono. Koe lo taki enterprise here.
Toko, wā ko whiwa he kai hanu, wha ampe ia I hake kiku sa pate.
Oh, o ngai hau family Amerika?
Iyo tokolahi au pite.
Tagi family ave fika vava runners ono ni manoa tau noa fit ni melimata. Tinau lava tatongi Amerika. Tau pik ea i vava oni o tiliva ki homo api i vava oni.
Hawe malo au pito toko. Te talewa kia matol he taimini.
Ko ia ka inga tongai Amerika. Ta lewa ki vava runners ki he ono ni manoa tau noa fit ni melimata. O totongi haki ikiki pe koha shopping pe ki lolo ahalai walu ka maulele ki mautol o tiliva ki ona ngahi o whale. Heu pehe pe whatawhata maa whanaa ia. Vava runners, telefoni, ono ni manoa tau noa fit ni menta. Only in Vava.
Ta foki o te tangi lewa.
Alo pito hoi ki moe haamata pule ha mo tuk taimi ka mo mea mai ki he pae ngai Vake Tali Folau I he aho whakakoloa koe ni. Pea o ko honga ka tek mautolu mau whai whatongia I he paenga o he Vake Tali Folau mo tuk taimi. Pea mo mea mai o vahe ai polokalama. Pea ko loto pe ke uhoko ato vahe ai konga koe ni, oi mahu inga ko ia o e ako. Pe ko kore whamore pe ki he motolu katoa pe o kumu mea mai, pe i he ngalu ea pe koe ngalu o pe. Ka o koe ai hono mahu inga o e vahe o e talanoa, he koe talanoa mo oni. Pe a magatu unga me iai ai ngahi ilo o whai ai vahe. Uloa ki, ko e ku kui pe me uiha hapai. Te vita to angutu. Pea ko ene whae karesita. Pea me where mea. Ko kau where mea pe moe. Uiha. Aia koe otu kine ki nā ia kau māwhoki ai makahoko walu. Pea hola ai tangata ei ki uvea he koe nau o mai pea me uvea ai nau tamai. Ko hingoa e tamai a e kukui ko siri pereto Vake. Ko e tangata e ki o kutanu ia i wawau, i lolo halai walu. Pea ko e whamiri ki nau tolu ko tūga nau whamiri mo Emily tofu. He koe kau uvea a Emily. Pea koe hola koe e tangata e ki uvea, he koe ai honau kere i uvea. Pea alate tangata e ki, o kakelo e puka uinga ne hola ai, ka o kumahino e ne hola, toki ilo ki mui he ne whae, e tangata e ki ko, e tangata e ki a ki uvea. Ka pau na koe hola ha mau taimi, vela lahi whakauria. Kaike, i he nofoko e tangata e ki i uvea, pea whakaukau mahalo ko ofa, mate hono ofa ke he ne whae. Pea whakaukau ke whoki. Koe palo pare maha o iki moe hamata apure, kaike ai hatola. Ai ko mahalo ka ngai taimia koe na peni taha pe u sirini pe koe haa ai whainga ui ko ia, nei kaike paanga he taimi ko ia. Pea nofo e tangata e ki o te to konga lalahi pe uhi o ku aonga ia. Okay? Ko e nofo e tangata e ki o whaingai e ne se niti. Pea heka i he waka. Ko lota pe ke mahino ki he toko tahakatoa pe u mea mai ke polokama. Na ikai ke ako a e kukui tangata pe a mu kukui whewhine. Pea ku oku wahe e mea koni aki a loto ofa ki a teki naua. Pega ke toi ngalo na whofo ngā he na u. Lahiange e ku nofo pia mo ki naua i he paintu ua. Kau maa whoki a toi lere atu ki he makahovalu. Pia moe otu kine kina. Pia whakaukau e tangata e ki ke whoki mai a ke hao sio ke ne whae. Pia manatu i whoki nei ka iako e tangata e ki. Kai ke ilo i ha fo i rea whakapapālangi. Koe mea mālo na ia e kautonga i he waka ngalo e te au ki ute alo whekumi ke ne tohi pe koe hako hingoa o e waka. Koe waka e ne kei ke hau ia ki tonga. Alu ai waka ki fisi. Pea i he taimi koe na heka e tangata e ki o alu koe ki fisi. O manatu i whau kai ke pota tangata e ki i he rea whakapapālangi. Pea i he nea o tuko ia ki fisi, pea hifo e toko tākatoa pe o alu. Ka hifo pe tangata e ki o nofo pe he uafu. Kai ke ne ilo i poha ha ne mea e whai. He kai ke ne ilo ha taha i fisi. Pea he fiafi po uri hifo kune whanongo ki he fo i rea pea mi he toko taha. Malo ele lei. Pea ne ta whoki o sio ke wheitu ura hau mai mea. Pea ne fia ne pea malo ele lei. Pea hau koe tangata e ki tonga ngala te ahono hingoa. O eke angi kia te ia pe koe hae ne mea whaheni o se alo e kakai ia pe ukai te hataha he uafu. Ka bau ne mo ho eki mo haa mata pure na mo mea tonu ke whaiwa ko ia o koripoki. The other side of heaven. E mao rewa whainga whakaukau ke nofo koe ni hao tangata iki ko o nofo koe he wafu kai ke hai koe hataha. E whakamatala koe ia ko mao bea me he ku whae ka maafoki hono whakatoko ua, whakatahina, whakatunga ane. Ai whakaofa, ai nofo e tangata e ki, ai utau pepeta tōku o sia o ia ke mental health problem i he time ko ia. Ko tui pe mahalo nei whaiha ane lotu. Io, o ku lotu mau pea uiha mo where mea, ko mau lotu he taini. Peko e lotu kai, peko e lotu mohe ka ko e lotu. Kaike, ko tui nei whaiha ane lotu. Pea ne whanongo ko ia ki he whaire malo e rei, pea hange ku tau e langi o e tangata e ki, o ku ei hataha, o ku whakare anki ai. Pea i he na whepo tala noa a ki koe mea ko ku mahino ki ai, koe tangata tonga koe ni ne mari fisi. Pea koe tangata e ni au kau i he kau ngāu e ko ia ai wafu. Na iai e mea ia na e ngālo pea koe ne hau ki ave, ki whoki moia ki api. O ne whakatonga i koe tangata e ki, pea ne siat whuka o kei ke hange ia koe tong koha fisi. Pea koe uhinga ia ni whakaukau, o ku ne tui pe ia o kei koe haa moa ka koe tonga. Awe rewa he tangata e ki au kukui konau api. O mahalolo ki ai, o ange pea moe mea tokoni. Pea moe ngahi ala mea pe hoko koe ai mōni te, na toe foki mai rewa ki he ngā ue koe e tangata e ki. Hao e tangata e ki tonga koe ni o kore, ha ngā ue ke ngā ue ai ai kukui, ke lawa mauhane seniti ke foki ki tonga. Pea tari rewa he pālangi ko ia na ane pure i ko toa ai wafu kau mafo ke ngai ngā ue. Pea koe talano e nei vahe ko ia he tangata e ki. I he ulaki wike pen, pea talangi he pālangi ukai ke manatu i he pālangi ukai poto e kukui i he rea whakapapālangi. Ukai ke poto e rea whakawhisi. Ko e rea whaka ui hape mo e rea whakawhere mea. Ko e rea beia e ua o kune nane iloi. Kai ke talangi he pālangia ke alu ke ki i whare o tuupe he turiki. O to'o mai ai papa whaua pe me iai. Lue tangata eiki, ke ki i whare, whaawa, na ewangi mono ki, whaawa, ai loka pe hua atu. I he ne hua atu ki loto ho eiki moe haamata apure. Mea pe ua na e whakatonga e he tangata eiki o kuiai. Ulua ki, koe mi sini, oi mea lere. Pea moe whatuunga papa. Aia koe papa whaua ia. Aia koe uhinga ai pālangi ke alo o mai ai papa whaua. Kai i kai whoki ke ilo i he tangata eiki ai rea whakapapālangi. Fua mai he tangata eiki ai mi sini koe ni. Pea mahalo koe vai ua ia mo sio mahe pālangi pea moe motu atonga na lere atu o talangi tuku ki lalo. O ku ikai koe whaua ia. Pea na whoki kotoa ke ki i whare ko ia hange hawhangi i whare u tuwe u mea ngāwe. O na oa tu whoki ku osi o mai he tangata eki ai misini. Kai toe ai whotu unga whaua. Whamatala rewa he pālangi pea rea whakatonga rewa ai motu a tangata eki tonga koe ni. Ko lota pe ke u kumi ai tangata eki whaia whakamalo ke te ia. Pea ko lawe i pe u kai kei henia ka kotui o kai pe hano ngai ha. Kai ke whamatala he pālangi mo e tangata eki tonga koe ni ai whaua. Koe whaua e. Pea whakahino i rewa ai whaa pea mo e ua. Koe whamatala ko he tangata eki nei peheia mei motu hono hui papatua hono fua mai ai fumi sini. Koe ku kui tangata a te vita to angutu ko siana lahe tangata. Nei mei ofi pe ia ki he fute e fitu. Koe nima lahi koe vae, koe fusiana lahi au pitoen. Pea peherewa he tangata eki, kai ge, ngā ue tangata iki mahana lawa mahina e tolu tānaki si ene se niti pia foki mai I he waka tahi ki tonga. Pia me tonga ki pangai ki uiha. O hau alo uma ki ene whae. Pia aia ko ne alatu ko ia o ku ia e kukui whewhine a mere ana. Pia whakamari ia I pe ki naua. Mahala ko e tau tea e tangata I ki hene hola. Kaike, ko mao e ofalahi he kuongo kui. Pea ko e rea ia na e whai he kukui tangata. Pea ko kore whamore mole peha no vai ni kautui e aonga ki hani ihi. E mahu inga o e ako. Pea perewa he tangata eiki. Te ungaue tūku ingata ke whakaako I e ku whanau. Uhi ke oa na to e whau mai e ku whanau mo ku whakamokapuna. I whainga mamahi koe ni o I kai ke lava o rea whapālangi pia I kai ke lava ke ako. Sai, te fast forward lewa ke tau moa I he ahoni. Man tui whoko os wahe ai mate ai droa whae ko hui ko breast cancer. Pea kamata rewa ke ne whakaloto lahi au ke utoe whai hanga I whekumi o lahi ange. He taiwa hiwa walu ia ke kansa. Koe ha a kansa, koe wanga whewhe whakatupu a kansa. Koe ha nai hanga he mea. Tene lava ke holoki hifo e whainga mea koe ni koe kansa. Ho eki mo ha mta pule kai ai hataha o ku ke mea I o ku mau he kansa. Rea ofa ka teki nau tolu. Whaianga hinga o le reiba ki nau tolu. Koe whainga maa ki whakasino. O ku whakatu tāmaki. Pea ui kai ke te ilo he te tokoto hifo o mohe. E toi whai ha toi tuu I he pongpongi. Pea ka paurewa te toi tuu I he pongpongi. Pea mahino koe ofa ta e whiriwhiri mānako. Ai otua. Kaike. Mahalo pete mō mea ai wahe koe ni. Aia koe ha ai kansa. Pea whaia ngai whakatotolo ki kansa. Hoko mai ai ua whei tau. Pea haurewa ai kautaha koe ni koe Morinda. O rikuti au ki aluange o hoko koe taha o nau kausaya ni si. Pea kamata rewa hono develop ai nonu. Te whakalahi ange e ngai umea kehena e develop. Pea taha ia e ngai mea na kuhanga o whau. Pea me he lai nonu. Ko tui pe o ku ko hiko e taimi, ko tui pe o ku ke mea I he taini mi aianga o e halanga whanonga. Kaike. Pea koe harewa ai kansa. Koe kansa pea moe kahi o kui kaike na tatau. Ka o kuhanga he kansa o whakawhi atungia I ai kahi. He koe kahi, koe whahinga mahaki whakae sino ia tupunga mi he taha o ngahi sistemi o sino o kui koe koe lymphatic system. Tō mua mea I he tau whanga kui ai mahaki koe kahi. O wai he tau e te au. Te kai I lo I he kaupapahalangi. I he tahiwa ni manoa me me koe kamata angaia hono lawe I he kaupahalangi. Ai mahaki whakai sino tupunga pea me he sistemiko ia na e ui ko lymphatic system. Pea koe kahi foki wha kakaito lahi unau wha ata mai unau pehe. Hange pe o whare pe ku alum he turiki koe ke he turiki koe. Pea au wha lahi pehe he nihi koe fo I whananga. Ho iki mui haam tā pūre. Sai bige toki soa ti I he ui ke kaha u. Koe ngahi lama. Ko hai tongana ne fofua. Ui notes, bako notus. Koe lama. Oku nau nofo I he sino. I he tapa kehe o sino. Pero taimi ko ia o poloka I ha mi e taha hangere wa ia oku alu ke turi ke taha. Kono uhinga ia ku wha alati ma upe ku whatawhata he toke tā. Ka pau o ku whewheka ai lama pe mahina mai rewa o ku aiha infection pe ko hano na wholata ki ai e lahi e suka mo i ngako. Pe au kau ki ai e whaafine mo i ngahi konga kehe o e sino. Kaike o ku kehe ai kahi pe mo i kansa. Koe ha ai kansa. Te upehepe te uhanga o atu e ki tala noa koe ni pe koe ki whakataata koe ni ke mahino ai kansa. He ukai koha mea u whaingofua ke meai. E ke nau tolu kai koha kausanis. Ka koe tau pōta anoa mo i wahe u atpe i he rea mahino ngofua pe maa. Koe tahia ngahi uhinga o ku ma saia ma upe mo tau takingilangi e whae polo kalama ko ia pelu la ke mamao. Whawhi at ki mo tolu i he wike ua, wike wha, o pure lulu ko toa pe he fitu, ke he walu e whiawhi ko ia aiuta. Tau pehe ka pau ko e no molon e ngahi cells ko ia i he sino. O ko oange e he DNA pe ko ia unehanga pure i ko ia a cell e fo i whakakau ko ni, pe ko se tesi ko ni. O ko mahino, tau pehe pe ko no molon. Ange ko lau ai ngai mātua i soreiki. Ko no molo pe na ia. Kaike, ai ko se tesi o ko kakato, he kua e ngahi ere me niti ko toa pe o i kalama whakatonga ai. Pea... ko e ngai whaino hino ko toa pe o atu he e DNA pe koe hono copy on hei o ave ke hino ke whao ko ia proteins o ko hange ia hono o atu e fo i se tesi ko ni. Ai au pe pe au kai ki u ai ko sio ia uton ke si ia es ko ia sa ko he sio ka o koe uhinga ko hangai o capitalize. Ai a ko e fo i ngā ue ia pe he nae ai a o ku past tense na e ko sio ko fo i whekau ia e na e pe ko yanga whewhe e ne sio na e tafoki o sio ki ai pe na e sio hake ki o lunga na e sio a sio ne ke fu lopa mo tolu ko na mo wanga ma upehe mandi e tau ke sio o kai lopa ai ka fo i se te no molo e ko no molo ia ko ai sino he mo uilere pea o koe rewa ai ngahi kansa keke. Kune te hanga ia whakalahi e se te si, pe o kune tu e se te si. Pea ka pau rewa e pehe kamata rewa ke he ai whakakau ai kakai ko ia unau sio ke se te si. Hangi koe ni. Ai a manatu ika no molo e na sio a sio ne ke fu lopa. Ai a koe se te si ia. Pea u mahino kia te koe, mahino kia te au. Okay. O koe ai e taime ni ihi. Ku tuu koe uhi koe lahi koe ngai ngau e selo pe lahi ngai whiala ki ku pehe mai pe se te sio ke fu lopa ko hai o ku sio koe whewhine koe tangata pe koe ki pepe pe koe ki tamasei pe koe motua mehe neipa ai o ku abnormal levania whawhihonaki ki fo i se tesi uluaki. E lava peke te hoko o pehe, si o he lopa, aia ku toi hala pe moia o ku abnormal. Pea, e te lava pe ia toi pehe, si o lopa. Aia ku tu urewa fo i se te sia koe mea peu ke si o kia ko si o lopa. O ku kaike le rei, pe o ku i kai ke make sense, ai fo i se tesi ko ia. Pea e lava pe ai taimi ni ihi o toi whakalahi. Ia ngai mea ke. I he taimi ko ia o ku whaiai e ngai se tes pehe ni. Pea taimi ko ia o ku toi whakafo oua i e cells. Unau hangarewa e nau tolu o whakalahi i ai palopare ma. Aia ko hange ko ia o ku mō mea ki ai. Aia ko e ngahi u cells ko ia i he turiki o ku nau tala fo i se tesi kakato. Pea koe taimi ko ia o ku lahe e whehala ki pea koe ngahi abnormal ko toa pe ku nau whakatupu. le whanua ki nau tolu, o tupuange ki nau tolu, o toi wawenga ia I he ngai cells koe oku mo uilelei pa koe normalo. Koe kansa ia. Pea koe kansa ia tupu peha whainga wheitu. Nei ulaki iai ai whakakaukau, whakasaya nisi koe pehe, o tupu peha e kansa ia wheitu oku ofi ki halanga toto. Koe mahalo o se ta ni mangofulu anongo fulu ai whe ao mai pea moi fo I whakakaukau ko ia. Koe whakaukau ia o kuhala. Toki mahino le rei I he ngahi ngau ai tokotaha ko Dr. Tudor Folkman. Koe tangata eiki koe ni na hoko ia koe palofesa I Harvard. Ko ia na ne hanga fuafua I loi ai founga to tonu mo ulunganga to tonu o kansa. Uluaki o ku tupu pe e kansa ha whainga wheitu upe o ku ai ai whehalaki ko ia o ngahi usete si pe o kai ke lava o whakatong tonu. O ku ake taku manatu ki he koristonga I he taimi ko ia ku wha ai se te se ko ku hala pea taimi lewa ke pehe e ni maki o lunga kai tai. Ko e ne tai ko ia he kai toi hala a ho wha au se te si. Kai ke I he ngai konga ke he o sino o ku whafo o ma o pe ko whi se te si u talat ma o pe ke cells. Ko e cells ko ia ki he atamai ko whi se te si pe ia taha. Ke ia mo whi se te si ko ia ke cells ki he maa pe ko e kofua pe ko e ate pe ko e mafu pe ko e vae ngai se te si ke. Ai au tau pehe pe ko e breast cancer wai no se te si o na kakato. Pe ka whihalaki rewa tuu ai se te si. Kai rewa ke toi ilo he ngahi selo. Ai mea ko ia utokton ke whai. Pea nauhanga na tau riunga pe ai mea ko ia ukuhala. Whakatupu re whanua hange ko ia o ku mō mea ki ai. Mō tolu ko ia mō mea mai I he Facebooka. Pe ko YouTube. Pea koe mea au maari e. Kai rewa ke toi lava e he neipa. He koe neipa e. Koe sino e tangata. Me ko ne oat pe ha kansa pe hangarewa he neipa. Ngai useos he neipa ofi. Pea waima ngai seos ke una mai ke taui. Uhi ke to'o. Pea me iai uhi kai mo uile rei e sino. Koe laheange whihalaki. Pea mālohiange ai whakatupu ko ia ai seos koe ke kansa. He koe kansa ia o ku riunga tolu ke hongo fulu. Tipene pea me whainga kansa a ene vave. Pea mohono mālohi. Kai ke nau toi mohe nau tolu ha aho pea moe pō. Se koni miniti houa aho wike mahina pea moe tau. Pea koe mea pea uku whai wai taiminihi uku wha aulewa kau toki tāki loto. Tau te whito ki a whea whitu uko uki ai kansa pe koe plain tuma ka koe tau tānoa ni ki he breast cancer. Nā wōrewa ki loto pea whai a hono ki whai to'o. Aia ka hono to'o ia o e tumor cells. He uku te lava pi ki tau sio hifo o ilo. Paka taim koe toi tui ai pea moe whanki hangi ha whanki mata sio ata microscope te lava le rei pe o tala hano kehekehe he unalanu kehekehe. Pe lava pe o toi atu hatai puha mea ke whakalanu aki. Pe koe nau taimi ko ia oku nau ngawe aki e whanki I here ko ia kono to'o. Ko re peke u hufanga he talamalu e whanua. Pea au kwai taimi ani ihi kwai whanki toi ngai. Kau nau pehe na tolu ko osi to'o ai kansa. Pe kai ke toi tupu mai. Ho iki moe haamata pūre koe whakaukau ia taha oku I kai ke tonu. He koe taimi ko ia oku to'o ai bea haki I selo e taha. E tupu. Pea koe kansa u pehe ka pau oku whakahingoa e kansa whakatatau ki he wheitu ko ia oku hau pea me iai. Oku ai e kansa koe non-smoking lung cancer. O koe kansa whakatupu me o kaholo, me acetone, asbestos. Katoa ngai mea pehe. Pea, I he taimi kau tau pehea I ko ia ko o sto'o e kansa, pea koe mantu I ko e whainga mea nia o ku hange o nau matariri he taimi kau to'o ai, pea nau toki riuriunga e nau whakatupu a nau tolu o to e waweange, lahiange, pea to e ai gui ko he kaupalangi ko e aggressive. Hoko le waia ko e tūma ia, pea ko e tūma ko e mea ia o ku maari e. He ui kai ke nofo mau ai tūma. Mantu e tau rea tonga ko ia ulavea pe e taka nofo he ngau e taka tuu. Ko e palovea pe whakatonga le rei ia ke whai ki he kansa. Ka hea pia whai ngā kansa. He ko e taka nofo e ngai u seos ko e o kumo ui le rei, pia taka tuu e ai ngai seos ko mao he kansa. Pia ko e ulunganga ni ngai seo ko e kansa. Mana tu I homo wha rea ko ia wha taka o pehe hangi o moto e tapiri. Moto nau tapiri. Kai ke nau to e lava nau tolo to e mapure ki nau tolo ka nau mepuk wha e ko e riuriunga pe. Pia ko e nau wa upe ko ia o lahi I he whai tu ko ia pia nau wha e nau tolo e mea ko e haua. Kau e kansa he whainga seo haua mon. Pea wanga whewhe ai haua, nau whanongat nau tolu I he halalahi, aia koe kālawa aia. Nau o nau tolu ke atamai, mantu ko breast cancer ane utau tānoi ki ai. Nau o atu ki he ngahi hui, ko le pehu whangai whatapu, nau atu ki he kofua. Toi au nau tolu ki he maa. Pea mangahi u e ria kehe o e sino. Koe mea kui whakapapalangi mo whakasainisi koe metastasis. Haua, koe haua ia. Koe nau atu koe o nofo koe I haki I pare ha wheituu, tau pehe koe alu me he breast cancer, o alu atu ke kofua. Whakatupu ke nau tolu. Koe anga ia e nau mea upehe. Whakatupu le whanua, pea koe ne taimia koe o ku mafolai. Haua ai kansa ki ngai wheituu keke. Koe uhinga lahia ka pau o ku tafa o to'o e kansa o ku ikai ke osi e kansa. Koe harewa aha o mea e whai te ke lava whakapapau. Whakarerei I ho o mao mea tokoni ho eiki mo hea matapure. O ku te toki wahe heni ke mahina maari e ku mahalo e whiunga mua mahina e tolu kou pehe hono wahe. Tu oua I he mahina whaka o auririki ai mahu inga o mea tokoni. Hange koe ni, ko ki mo tolu ko mo wanga maheni ko ia I he mau mea tokoni me he kumala Hawaii. Kau ai kumala Hawaii boi kumala o koe ai ngahi u compound ai u nauhanga e nau tolu o tuhifo ai kansa. Kono uhinga ni pe koe tahane ngai uhinga hono taukawe e Dr. Kingilangi ai plant-based. Pea o manatui ai rea koe iak whahawahe e Dr. Kingilangi o pehe. Koe rea ai fofua tangata toke tā ia I he māma koe ni aia o ku ilo I aia kono hingoa ko Hippocrates. Pehe he tangata koe ni tuku ke hoko aha o mea kai ko o whaito'o. Pea tuku ke hoko aha o whaito'o ko o mea tokoni. Let food be thy medicine and let medicine be thy food. Ko e te kai ko ia, pe mau mea tokoni ko ia. I ho mau mea tokoni, pia me kumala Hawaii, o ku hangarewa ngai compound ko ni. Ai o kai kua mea ke tu o taha pe. Ko tau mau mea tokoni mau pe me mea tokoni tau whangakui. Kono uhi ngai na nau mo ui fuo loa ai ki nau tolu. Kai ke nau mai nau tolu whainga stress o tau mai tai nimi mo COVID mo hafua. Ka koe mahu inga ia o e plant-based. He kamata rewa ke le leia ngai aha o mo ui. Pea kapau ku ke ngawe ake nukuhiwa, whakapapau I e au bama kau Chinese ke aha no le rei, ki hono taofi ai haua ko ia ai ngahi u seo ko ia u kansa. Ka koe whainga mea whukia ke te ngawe ake aha katoa pe. A te whi au ni se uhe pongpong, au ni se uhe whiawhi, ki mo tolu ko ia mo whi mao e nukuhiwa. Ka whika ko ia mereseini palau piu tau koe ono walua, Ni mao no wha fitu noa noa taha. Pa ke ngau aki pe mo ngahi ume ake, o ku aonga ki hono taofi ai whakahaua ko ia, pe koe whakahau we, ai ngahi u cells ko ia ku mao he kansa. He ku hange ko lau, ka pau nei alu pe me he breast cancer, nau totolo atu ki nau tolu, pe au nau totolo. Ulu aki koe whai konga ua ku koe nau hopo atu ki halalahi, koe highway ia koe o sino i tangata o kua. Ulu aki koe halanga toto. Hono ua koe lymphatic system. Aia koe kahi. Tene lawa pe eia ka pau mau hataha e kahi. Kahi veke veka pe koe hape ngai kahi e fitu ko ia ne o si mea i he tau whanga kui. Aia rewa u ala te kansa ia o toi whakalahi ange ai paloparema o i kahi. Kai mantu, koe kahi mo i kansa o kai koha mea pe ia e taha. Pea koe taimi ko ia o ku poloka ai lymphatic system pe hangerewa ia o ku tatolo me ta whake maa ke matau pe ku alu ke he ulu pe koe whewhainga wheitu o alu ki ai. Pea o ku mo oni o ku alu. Pea haua ai whaahinga e nihange koe kansa. Aia o ku alu e whaahinga o nau ngawe aki e super highway ko ia o sino e halanga toto, pe koe secondary system, pe wae whaahinga nau haua nau tol ke lymphatic system. O toe tāpalasia ai aki nau tolo nau paloparema pe mihi kahi. Pe aku nau loto nau tolu ke nau o on nofo pe nau tala api tuku hau i he lama. A kansa, pe koe nau tupu pe koe lahi pa nau totolo ka whituke. Whai e haua. Kono uhinga i o whainga taai. Pe ka pau e mau kei pongia. Pe au ku whaasai au pito. Ka kono uhinga ki tau ririu o plant base. Whakasi isi e mau mea tokoni me kakano i manu. Kai le rei. Te uki i wahe atu ai ki whoi konga koe ni ka uki ihu. Ko korepe ke uki ihu atu hala kini atu heni. Koe ngai whakatatolo koe whikau aki pia moe gene expression. O ku iai ai ngahi u genes hia o ku ko ki nau tolu ia o ku mei ku nau whaahanga nau tolu o poupou ia kansa. Ka pau e aha wheha laki. Koe taimi ko ia o ku mau mea toko ni ai hataha pia mei he kakano i manu. Pia lahi rewa ai mo oi ai funky genes koe ni ki he kansa. Koe taimi ko ia o ku ko ngai whakatotolo in whai i he kakai tangata ma kai whewhine. O ku lahi ai kai plant-based pe koe sālati. Ai ko tau, ai mahino pe ai sālati. Pero nau whatonga i rewa koe ngai genes ko ia ki he mea kui koe antioxidant. Ai aku ne hanga o ai mau pe koe ke ki i hangebeu ke tau anima. Ka neongo ko iau ke tau ni manga fulu koe. O hihi koe mo tu angia sino koe lahi angia ai free radicals. Pea kairewa ke fuu le rei a antioxidant system ko ia ai sino. Pea o paurewa ke te mau mea tokoni pea mehe plant-based. Limu, longa uha, ngai uvesta polo, mango, niu, kato e tau ngai umea tokoni tau whangakui. Pea whakatuputupu le whanua rewa ai ngai genes le rei ko ia ke antioxidant o sino. Koe taimi ko iau whakataha iai ki naua. Ai au hange ia ke tau mea tokoni a te ki i tau pehepeha te foi manioke, foi talo, foi kumala. Pea o mai maha te ki i vestapolo, pa koe kāpisi, pa koe lolongo uha. Pea koe peha te ki mei pulu ai. Pea koe taimi ko unau sio koe ke whainga blend pehe o kukai. Kore pe hufanga whakatapu. Kai rewa ke toe asi ai u genes ko ia o kunehanga o poupou ia kansa. Kai no molo. Mohanga whakatonga ia ngea. Koe taha ia o ngai whakamooni, whakapapau, whakasayanisi ki hono mahu inga o e plant-based. Mahu inga ki tau whoki ki ngai mau mea tokoni e tau whangakui. Tau whoki pe tau tolo he te tau mo ui pe tau tolo. kai hoko atu ai vahe ki he kansa, pea kuanga fe rewa, ai whakatupu le whanua, pe koe whakatupu tupu laki, ai tupu ai kansa. Koe, mea kotoa pe hangi koe tau lawe koe ane nai mahau ke tau whakaosi hen koe hia koe taimi. Ai mea koe kui koe motu tapiri, motu e tapiri. Koe sino, koe cells kotoa pe i he sino o e tangata. Pe koe bone cells, heart cells, liver cells, pe koe kofuua, pe koe ate piri, pe koe hape. O kuiai ma upe he fo i cell kotoa pe ai whainga whakatata koe ni o ku ke mea koe ki ai i he Facebooka, pe i he YouTube. Pea o kuiai ma upe ai whainga face kehe ai, koe angana ai misi teri, ai whau ai otua, ho eki mo hea matapule. Te ki ai ke tau ofi ki he takere o e poto matau o e otua. Te tau mate pe tau tolu he kai pike tau au ki ai. Kai ke, koe ki whakatata mahino ni ko os whakapapau, whakasae nis, i he tangata mo ngahi monumanu kehe kore pehu whanga whakatapu. Pea i he ne taimiko oku, me ai ko ne ai uhangi haki ngota omu. Pau ma upe ke o hake he mea mai te maka, fie mo ngahi mea koe, pea taimiko ai ki ngota omu, pea lako ngahi maka, pea taimiko mea, pea ue umu, pea tafu, o atu lewa kia hao mea tokoni, ai pea mohono, whetaki mai mo ngahi u la i mei, peko la i polata, peko hapea whainga mea kouku ai. Pea koe taimiko ia o ku fuke ai umu, pea moho e mea tokoni. I he sino ko ia o he tangata, o hange ko ia mo mea koe ki ai i he Facebooka, pe koe YouTube, o kui ai ngahi konga kehe o sino, hange ko ia mo mea ki ai ngahi konga lalahi e tolu koe ni. Aia koe taimiko o ku tupu ai, pea koe taimi o ku maa vahe, pea koe taimi ke toi whakatupu, kai toki wahei. Whakaukau ki ho o paanga, pau mao peke ke invest he paanga, kai mao ho o paanga. O kai te albo invest he ea, kore behu whanga he whakatapu, pea toho rewa haa te paanga, ku kau ia he mea ia kuhala whakaukau ko ia. Kai ke, koe ngahi mea ni o kui mao peheni, o kiai a hono ko pau ke mau a ngai kongkonga mo elemeniti o seo kotoa pe, pea kone mau ko ia, pea tok whakangofua mai rewa ke alu ke feise taha. O pe anga ni alu. E taimi ko ia o kansai a cells, kai ke te ai hata ofi ia. Ko ene lere pe anai kono hingai ku kapau ka foi se te si na e sio a sione ki he fu lopa. Ko to ore vai ta ofia pe ko fiala ki sio ki he lopa. Kai ke make sense ai fainga me e ko ia ia ngai se te si pau. Pe ko sio lopa, kai ke pe lere i pe ka ke te ai hano ta ofi. Mot hono tapiri pe kono ai e taha lere kula i pe. Pea kono uhinga ia o ku tupu lahi pea mo wawe ai ai kansa. Ka koe mea te pu. Ka bau kai hataha o ku mau he kansa ku ke mea i. Pe ko hau whaamiri pe kainga. Ke nau mau mea tokoni plant pace. Oua e nofo ta e kai. He koe kansa ia ko nau tavio nau tolu ai suka. Aia koe suka me askirimi mo ngai suka ke he. O whakatu tā makia ki ai he ko ene tavi anaia ke mau e suka ke lahi kai toki whai ene haua mo ene hou tamaki pea tuputupu le whanua lewa o palopare mai ai sino. Ko tui ko e tau ngata he, ko hi ko e taimi ko taalo mai, ka ko whakawhi ki mōtolu ke mōto e mea mai pe i he wike kahau, toki hoko atu e tau tāno ke kansa, pe mga hi kansa kehe. Hoi ki mo e hamata pule o ku honga ki mo tu a whai whatangia mo tuku taimi ka mo mea mai ki he paenga o e Vake Tali Folau. E a whamalo i mo mea mai, pou pe a mo hono wahe pe se atu o e tau polo kalama. Ko whakatawange pe na iai hangahi mea ne wahe e Emily, ka ma Vake Tali, pe a mangahi mea ko wahe e aonga ki a te koe, ki ho o taumua ko ia ki he whaholo hasino ki he mo uilerei. Pea ke feel great. Uhi ko e tau fo o weni to tonu ki tau ongo i mau pe a fia ke whakasii a mental health problem. Ho eki mo e hamata pure, aonga mau pe ke tau tokanga ki he ako. Kai ke ngata pe he ako tau kau ki ai, i tua i whare ako, i he whangawaka o mo me ai, ngai kolo o mo me ai pe i whare ako. Pea osi rewa ai ngai tokoni ko ia pe te tokanga rewa ki he mo uilerei. He ko ho mo uilerei ange, ko e lahi ange ia ho ngai tokoni te ke whai maha o whanau. Whamagapuna, kai tau te fito, ki he whamawaka o ke me ai. Ke tāpua kina, hani ike, kai ko koe pe mo o whānau. Hau ki mo e hamata apure, whawhi at ki mo tolu, i he lava ko ia ai polo kalama mi he substation koe ni. Ke mo me atu ki he main station ko ia ai paenga o Vake Tali Folau, aia o i San Francisco, California. Tari mai mea e suan tō lau makahiri, e meri tofu mahiri, pea moha nihi ke te nau whai hana he proklama ne rei ma aki mautolu. Owa na angalo, pea kahiri ai proklama ko ia, e hika lewa ai proklama ki he substation ko ia, i Honolulu, Hawaii, o kai a siwakiri vai, ka maha foki ai hoa fusili vai, moha nihi ke te nau whai na ai proklama ma aki mautolu, ia koutui e waweni mai pe ai osi ko ia ai proklama Hawaii foki at lewa ki he substation ko ia i nuka lofatonga ke live mai pe me nuka lofatonga pe ka hiri na proklama ko lava ia ai hoa wafa o si fai fatongia e mau fai fatongia me paenga o Vake Tali Folau ma au o family whanau whamapuna mo e whakamagapuna. Ea mau ha o whalahi kia teki mo tolu, ka mo mea. Mo mea o whaat ka mo ngā tokana.